one of the truly incredible people who can tell us so much about health, human health, animal health, longevity, nutrition, all the good things that we want to hear and know about and live longer and healthier. Dr. Wallach, if you know, his credentials are lengthy, going back as a author, lecturer, medical researcher, writer. He just, he wears so many hats and does so many things. So it's we have such a good fortune to have him come here and enlighten us more about being healthy today. So without further ado, I'd like to bring out Dr. Joel Wallach.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for coming out. Really appreciate it. And thank Pete and his lovely wife for helping us put all this together. Again, I think Pete did a pretty good job of introduction. The thing that makes me different is that I do have a degree in agriculture. I'm a veterinarian. I wrote the first paper regarding a mass die-off in America from pollution back in 1991. It was published in 92. I worked with Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual Omaha Wild Kingdom show. Some are old enough to remember him. I know there's some young ones in here only know the crocodile hunter. And Perkins had me go to Africa when I graduated veterinary school and work on the white rhino and the African elephant conservation project. So if you see a white rhino in a zoo or a wild animal park, it's either one that I caught or offsprings. I caught 200 of them and sent them over here. And he called me back. Oh, there we go. Now we got some volume, but now it's a little too much. Let me cut it back a little bit. Hello, hello. That's good? Okay, perfect. Okay, we're happy. Thank you, thank you. Leave it right where it's at. Thank you. And after 2 years there, I was prepared to stay in Africa for the rest of my life because I had such a good time. Yeah, get you all the way back to the room, dear. All the way in the back. And my dad used to say, if you're on time, you're a half hour late. Okay. Since I wrote that article on the mass die-off from pollution and had given him a copy, he came up with a grant from the National Institutes of Health, $25 million. It's called the Center for the Biology of Natural Systems. And that was a lot of money back then. It'd be the equivalent of billions of dollars today. And he called me back from Africa to be the pathologist on the project. And to make a long story short, over a 10-year period, I did some 20,000 autopsies and 10 million chemistries. And the book that came out of it's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. It's 1,200 pages. It deals with all the chemistries and autopsies and so forth. They had all the clinical records. It was quite a thing. Looking for pollution as a contributing factor to chronic disease and death of natural causes. What I found out was that every animal, every human being, and I had done of the 20,000, some 17,000, some change were of over 424 species of zoo animals and 3,000 humans. And every animal, every human being that died of what they called natural causes, not infections and not trauma, actually died of nutritional deficiency diseases. That was quite a shocker to everybody, all documented by biochemistry. And that began to save species because you may remember back in the 60s, the panda was just down to about a half a dozen pandas in the world in captivity. They were going to be extinct. And I was able to save them because they were feeding them things like a bamboo grown in potting soil, from Walgreens. And I didn't get enough nutrition, so I just gave them dry dog food, and now we have to give them birth control because there's so many pandas. And that kind of simple stuff, okay? And I think next time, Pete, next time we set this up, it'd be very useful if we have an aisle down this right side, so when people come in late, they can go down that aisle instead of crisscrossing and shaking hands with all their buddies and all this kind of stuff. Okay, now before I get going here, I should tell you one more thing. As part of that project, they sent me from zoo to zoo, university to university over a period of 12 years. And my last project was at the Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Yerkes Primate Center, which was dealing with NASA monkeys and stuff like that. I just walked in, and within the first couple of months, I discovered the first non-human case of cystic fibrosis, thought to be a genetically transmitted disease. And in the project I had done with Marlon Perkins, where I did the 20,000 autopsy, I was finding human genetic diseases in animals like type 2 diabetes and now crocodiles and sickle cell anemia in hummingbirds and antelope, and so I knew that the genetic thing wasn't correct, but I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger to that publicly yet. It appeared in the scientific books and things, but it wasn't ready for prime time. But when I found this one, because so many kids were involved, I got it all together, put it together, and realized that cystic fibrosis is not genetically transmitted, as is generally thought in the medical community. And did all the chemistry, found out the cause. There were 24 age peers in that colony that were not related genetically to this one monkey that died of cystic fibrosis. Got permission to do biopsies on them. They all had cystic fibrosis. So I knew it was an environmental thing. And so tracked it down. Sure enough, the deficiency of a single mineral gave the survivors all that mineral went away. Genetic markers went away. Got it written up, and I asked the boss, the head guy, the chairman of the Yerkes Primate Center, to be able to publish it, and he fired me. He said, everybody knows it's genetic. I said, well, can't we get a committee together like you do for PhD students and let them challenge me and see if I can answer their questions correctly or not, or fulfill, their challenge? No, we'd be embarrassed to tears. They'd laugh us out of the university if we said that there was even a possibility that cystic fibrosis wasn't genetic. So that's when I went back to school, 1978, and became a physician. I've been practicing as a primary care physician for 36 years and using everything I'd learned in those projects with the National Institutes of Health, the National Science Foundation, many zoos, many big universities, to treat my patients. And so I treat them quite differently than the average physician. With that, are there any people who are professionals in healthcare here tonight? Any professionals in healthcare? I know we have a dentist here, Dr. Feld, right? And who else do we have? Yes, what do you do, sir?
Medicine.
You're a medicine, medical doctor? Okay, I appreciate you being here. What is your specialty?
Emergency.
Emergency, okay, very good. Emergency room. Dentist, okay, so we got a couple of dentists here. Anybody else in the healthcare professions? Okay, appreciate you being here tonight, and appreciate everybody being here tonight. I'm going to start out by just saying, over the thousands of years that there's been physicians and philosophers and soothsayers and all that kind of stuff, there's been thousands of failed medical theories every century. In the 20th century, 21st century is no different. You have thousands of failed medical theories. And so we're going to go over some of the major ones, and it'll be kind of a shocker to everybody, including, I'm sure, our medical professionals. Take nothing personal. This just has to do with the reality of things. And some of the failed theories have to do with arthritis. It's not genetic in any way, shape, or form. It's not even rheumatoid arthritis. It's not an autoimmune disease. They're all mineral deficiencies except for rheumatoid arthritis, which is a bone-to-bone arthritis, which is a mineral deficiency disease with a secondary infection with a bug called mycoplasma. You can kill it in 2 weeks with minocycline, which is a member of the tetracycline family. And then we have diabetes. We've known for 70 years it's not genetic. It's a simple disease, single mineral deficiency. I've known it for 70 years. When I did those autopsies on those animals and finding human diabetes in crocodiles, did he eat a Baptist preacher who had diabetes and somehow got the gene implanted in him? So I knew that this had to be an absurd thing when it came to genetics. What about high blood pressure? Has nothing to do with salt, has nothing to do with genetics, even in the black community. Heart disease has nothing to do with cholesterol. Congestive heart failure is a simple deficiency of a single vitamin. We've known that for 300 years. It was discovered by a Japanese naval surgeon. The cardiomyopathy, heart disease, heart attack is a sudden heart death in athletes and people who do hard physical work. This is caused by a deficiency of a single mineral. I've done 1,700 autopsies on kids under the age of 10 in Qishan province, China, that have died from cardiomyopathy heart disease. 1,700 autopsies published in English here in the United States in the several medical journals, and also in China in 2 languages in several medical journals. Coronary artery disease has nothing to do with cholesterol. Coronary artery disease, and I said this in 1971 in one of my publications, international papers, is caused by inflammation of the lining of the arteries, and the lining of the arteries then react with scar tissue. It has nothing to do with cholesterol. That was a very, very badly failed medical theory. Billions of people have been killed all over the world with that theory. We'll get into that in a second. The Nazis only killed 40 million. The theory that coronary artery disease is caused by cholesterol has killed over 1 billion people when you count all countries in the industrialized nation. And then coronary thrombosis. We get a blood clot in a coronary artery, and vascular disease in the brain. We get cerebral thrombosis, thrombotic stroke, This has nothing to do with cholesterol. It's actually caused by an omega-3 essential fatty acid deficiency, or a ratio problem between omega-3, 6, and 9. That's one of my 8 lawsuits against the FDA and federal court, and I prevailed in all 8 lawsuits. Another one was I had to sue the FDA to get them to insist and demand that folic acid was in human prenatal vitamins to prevent neurotube defects like spina bifida. We had done that in animals since 1947, but medical doctors didn't want to do it in people, so I had to sue them in federal court to make them do it. Okay, and on and on and on. I can do thousands, but these are some of the ones we're going to talk about. Let's look at some of these failed theories. How many of you ever heard of obesity? Anybody here hear of obesity? Raise your hand. You don't raise your hand, you're a lying commie. You've all heard it. Obesity has nothing to do with lack of exercise and eating too much. Obesity is really due to a nutritional deficiency, and the symptom of the nutritional deficiency are deep cravings and the munchies and desires to eat things, binge eating. Those are the symptoms of these nutritional deficiencies. And I deal with people who are 300, 400, 600, 800 pounds. Those are the ones that I deal with. It's very easy to get them to lose 2 pounds a day, 4 pounds a day. They don't need surgery to deal with wrinkles and things like that after they lose the weight, and I'll show you some examples of that in a moment. The book that goes into the great detail, the earliest one was in 1994, called Rare Earths Within Cures, touched on it, and Hell's Kitchen specifically talks about the cause, prevention, and cure of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and the metabolic syndrome. Obesity doesn't cause diabetes, and diabetes doesn't cause obesity. They kind of run together because they're all nutritional deficiencies. None of them have anything to do with genetics. None of them have anything to do with eating too many carbohydrates. Eating too many carbohydrates is a symptom of deficiency. If you choose this big deal about high fructose corn syrup and the soft drinks, oh my God, they're going to paralyze the earth. I said, no. The reason why people drink that stuff is because they have cravings to drink that stuff because they're nutritionally deficient. That's why pregnant women gain all that weight. The embryos steal these nutrients from the pregnant women, they have cravings. And then how many of you heard that exercise is good for you? Raise your hand. Don't raise your hand, you're a lying comic, because I know you've all heard that. Let's look at professional athletes who get paid $3, $4, $5 million per event, per game. And when you take all professional sports combined, the average lifespan of professional athletes is 62. That came out in 2004, published. And professional football players, the average lifespan is 51. There's never been a professional athlete ever lived to be 100. What did I tell you about exercise? If exercise is all that good for you, here they are, they're being paid, they're personal trainers, they're supposed to eat well, they exercise, they train, they do everything they're supposed to do, and not one of them lives to be 100. People living under the bridge live to be 100. Dumpster diving behind McDonald's. Oh, those poor people their lives suck. I mean, they got to eat dog food. But that's why they live to be 100. Because dog food is perfect. Well, the universal problem is that all athletes, regardless of sports, sweat, don't they? And what do they do when they sweat? They drink water. Well, some drink Gatorade, but most of them will drink water. Okay, but Gatorade could be, or Powerade, that sort of stuff. Well, and whatever it is, they're drinking water primarily, but a few of them will drink Gatorade, a few of them will drink Powerade. And sweat is not water. Sweat is a soup that contains all the nutrients floating around in your blood. Let's say you're not supplementing, you're getting 65, 70 nutrients that are floating around in your blood. What if you're supplementing, you're getting all 90 essential nutrients, which we'll get into in a minute, and you're sweating these 90 essential nutrients out in your sweat and you're drinking water. What's happening to the nutritional reserves in your body? Going down. Now, why is it it's always the best, the top players that have knee problems and hip problems and tendon problems and ligament problems? BAM! And then they're dead. Why is that? The ones sitting on the bench never have a problem. They never sweat. Yeah, this is my specialty, of course, cardiomyopathy, heart disease. Again, I've done 1,700 autopsies published on that. Big study. There's a 43-year-old gold medalist, Olympic gold medalist, dies of cardiomyopathy, heart disease at age 43. There's another gold medalist in swimming, died at 26, cardiomyopathy, heart disease. This guy's supposed to be the athlete's athlete, a Russian gymnast, died at 54, cardiomyopathy, heart disease. And I love this one, because billionaires' physical and health lives suck. Because they can afford the best doctors, they can afford the best food, and that's what kills them. It's the best food and the best doctors. Because what does a top doctor tell you? Dr. Frank, shouldn't I be taking a supplement, boost or ensure, or take a multiple or something? Oh, just eat well, you're getting everything you need. Bam! You're dead. Now, how many of you ever heard that salt has something to do with high blood pressure, particularly in the black community, and along with the genetics? How many have heard that salt is bad in general for the cardiovascular system? Raise your hand. If you don't raise your hand, you're a liar. I didn't ask you to believe it. I asked you to heard it. Okay? Well, my audio cassette tape, which came out in 1992, Dead Doctors Alive. But by the way, how many have ever heard the audio cassette tape or the CD, Dead Doctors? Okay. Okay. Even the emergency room doctor heard it. Okay, good. All right. And one of the things that made that audio cassette tape so controversial was there's 8 things in there that I had actually rung up when I was dealing with all these autopsies back in the 60s and 70s, which were failed theories, including the salt thing is bad. Salt is very, very good for it. It has 2 essential nutrients in it, sodium and chloride. You can't make stomach acid without the chloride. You can't make hydrochloric acid. You can't make sodium bicarb, which is something your pancreas does to neutralize the stomach acid coming out of your stomach into your small intestine because of the enzymes your small intestine and pancreas require an alkaline environment, whereas your stomach requires an acid environment. Plus, you have all these necessary cofactors, including sodium and chloride, that are required for all these chemical reactions in your cells to work. And so any doctor who tells you to restrict salt should be put in jail. I'm serious, because they kill people when they say restrict salt. It's like saying, now, no more oxygen for you. Okay. Bam, you're dead. Well, the whole story about salt, you can find in Time magazine, March 1982, Salt, the New Villain, September 2014, salt doesn't cause high blood pressure, even in blacks. Now, there's a lot of, here's a study that was done by Loyola University, Chicago Medical School. They published the first reports in the Scientific American in February 1999. 6 years later, January 2005, they came out with this bottom line study, which they published in the British Medical Journal, said, high blood pressure in blacks not genetic. January 2005. I said it in 1971 when my book was published, 1,200 pages. Right? Then, of course, there are herbs that will do a better job in lowering blood pressure compared to pharmaceuticals with no negative side effects. This came out in the Journal of the American Medical Association, August 2003. Said dark chocolate has flavonols in it, a natural substance in dark chocolate, which lowers blood pressure without complications that cause death and injury and all the other complications of high blood pressure medication, 1-800-BAD-DRUG kind of thing. And so we immediately came out with a liquid dark chocolate, which I like the liquid. It's called Cocogevity. I put it in my Java Fit coffee, which is our brand of coffee. We're kind of like the 3rd largest coffee company in the world. Oops, that's the Russian version. Okay, Cocogevity, you put like an ounce of this in your cup of Java Fit coffee, you get a mocha cafe. I mean, lowers your blood pressure, antioxidants of coffee, does great things for you. And if you're like me, you travel a lot, we have pieces the size of a pat of butter, which have the same flavonols in it, triple treat chocolate, and they have probiotics and more calcium and that kind of stuff. Really great, great chocolate. You won't like it. It tastes like chocolate. Now, have you ever heard of cardiovascular disease? Raise your hand. Okay, good. Have you ever heard of cholesterol being associated with cardiovascular disease? Raise your hand. Okay, well, the approach that the medical system has for cardiovascular disease, if you have obstructed arteries in your heart, they put stents in, they do bypasses, you do heart transplant, all that kind of stuff, and they forget that when you have a 2 millimeter wide obstruction in a descending coronary artery, you also have the same obstructions in your arteries in your brain. You get vascular dementia, you get strokes, you get carotid artery obstruction, you get obstruction in the arteries in your eye, you get glaucoma, you get obstruction of arteries in your kidneys, you get kidney failure and dialysis and all that kind of stuff. And they forget about all the rest of that. They just want to put that stent in. And then they want to do the bypasses. And then They want to do the heart transplant, put in pacemakers and defibrillators and do ablation and retroversions and all these things, and none of it's really a heart problem. None of it's cholesterol. There's not a single cardiovascular disease that's caused by cholesterol. Congestive heart failure, again, is caused by deficiency of a single vitamin. We've known that for 300 years. Cardiomyopathy heart disease, a deficiency of a single mineral. Coronary artery disease, where you're getting plugged arteries, has nothing to do with cholesterol and saturated fat. It has everything to do with inflammation. Eating fried foods, processed meats with nitrates and nitrites, oils that turn into trans fatty acids, heterocyclamines and acrylamides, chemicals far worse than anything that Dow Chemical and Monsanto, or as Shar says, Monsanto, put together, right? This whole demonization of cholesterol and saturated fat was put together by, make a long story short, put together by Procter & Gamble and the American Heart Association. About 1936, Procter & Gamble gave the American Heart Association $1.7 million, which was an enormous amount of money back at that time, to endorse their new product, which they wanted to replace lard and cream and butter as cooking shortenings. And this synthetic product was actually originally made in 1901 by the German Navy as a lubricant. Somebody's clicking a pen or something over here. Click it. Please stop it. Whoever's doing it over here. Okay. It was a synthetic lubricant for diesel engines for submarines. Now, Procter & Gamble started out, they wanted to sell it as soap, and they couldn't sell it as a soap in the 1930s because everybody's still making their own soap. They decided they were going to sell it as a food. Remember, this is a diesel engine lubricant. They gave the American Heart Association $1.7 million to endorse this product as safer to eat than butter, cream, and lard. It was all a sales campaign, and they came up with a Mediterranean diet as a sales campaign core to sell this product. There was no facts to back this up about the Mediterranean diet. In fact, they originally called it the 7 countries diet because they looked at Italy and Malta and Greece and France and Spain and Portugal. And they really couldn't get what they were looking for, so they rendered it down to the 75 guys on Malta Island who are in their 80s still working out in the fields. They said, see, here's the proof that the Mediterranean diet works. Mediterranean diet means you need all these polyunsaturated oils, not saturated fats and cholesterol. And the whole product was to sell as Crisco. Now, a year ago, there was a 2 full-page article in Wall Street Journal telling this story. Now, I spent 35 years looking for the pivotal paper that showed that cholesterol and saturated fat were the demons that they said they were. Now, I'm a pathologist, and I never could find it. The reason I could never find it, those papers never existed. It was always a sales campaign to sell Crisco. And of course, by the 60s and 70s, they had pretty much demonized cholesterol and saturated fat. In fact, the first Good Housekeeping seal of approval, Procter & Gamble gave the Good Housekeeping magazine an enormous amount of money to do a full-page color ad. What they wanted was Norman Rockwell, the American painter who does Americana paintings, to do a painting of Thanksgiving with a deep-fried turkey, deep-fried in Crisco instead of a roasted turkey. And he wouldn't do it because his grandmother and his mom still like lard and cream and butter to cook with. They still wanted the roasted turkey. So they got a Norman Rockwell-esque painter, and this came out in 1962, which is the first Good Housekeeping seal of approval paid for by Procter & Gamble. And it shows these kids eating deep-fried turkey parts, okay, deep-fried in Crisco. The new Crisco, made to help take the fat worry out of good eating, highly unsaturated. Only the new Crisco has double the preferred unsaturates. Bam! You're dead. 1991, the New England Journal of Medicine, very well respected, published by the Harvard Medical School. Dr. Kern wrote an article. It was a kind of a case report and a letter to the editor kind of combined. It was a story of a single patient, and Dr. Kern was the professor of medicine at the University of Colorado School of Medicine, and he was showing a group of graduated medical doctors who were formerly students. They were getting ready to do the residencies and internship, and he was showing them how to examine seniors properly as opposed to pediatrics. he came across this chart in the pile. It was an 88-year-old guy. And he said, oh, this is the one I want to show you guys. He goes in the room, and the guy looks like he's 50, and he's looking around. He says, is this you? I say, yeah. Is this your birthday? Yeah, that's me. He said, my goodness gracious. Tell me what you attribute your young looks and the fact that all your laboratory blood work says you're 50 years old. What do you attribute that to? And the guy threw his shoulders back, threw his chest out, and said, well, I eat 25 eggs a day. Been doing that for the last 17 years. I'm going to do it for the next 100 years. And so this guy says, well, why on earth are you eating 25 eggs a day? The guy throws his shoulders back, throws his chest out, and says, because it makes me more studly. Now I want you to appreciate that testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and adrenal hormones are steroid hormones, and they're 95% by weight cholesterol. You want a cholesterol-restricted diet, you want a cholesterol-lowering drug, you know, statin drugs, there ain't nobody home anymore. It was a field day for pharmaceutical companies that came up with Viagra, Cialis. There goes that pen again. I heard it click over here. Somebody did it. You're guilty, whoever you are. Okay. And adrenal exhaustion in vegetarians, all caused by cholesterol deficiency. Now, the most terrible disease, physician-caused disease, did not exist 40 years ago, 45 years ago. Today's the number 4 killer of adults over the age of 65 is Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a cholesterol deficiency. 75% of your brain weight is the white matter of the brain, called myelin, the insulation material of the brain. When it goes away, the naked nerve fibers all tangled out, and that's the microscopic diagnostic feature of Alzheimer's disease. You get these nerve tangles. Because short-circuiting of the brain, you can't remember anything. Some people get a little violent and angry and that kind of stuff along with the dementia. It's a physician-caused disease. You think you're doing a good thing by eating egg white omelets and egg beaters, giving up red meat? Bam! You're dead. You'll die in your doctor's nursing home. He owns them all. You'll die in your doctor's nursing home with Alzheimer's disease because he gave it to you on a restricted diet. I have to tell you, before we go on, is that the FDA in February of 2012 sent an email to all licensed medical doctors in America saying, look, urgent stop. Do not write prescriptions for statin drugs anymore. Stop it. They listed them, Lipitor, Zocor, Mevacor, and many of the others, and they said, do not recommend do not recommend cholesterol-restricted diets for your patients. Particularly, don't do both of those in the same patient. Otherwise, you're going to increase the risk of type 2 diabetes by 52% and Alzheimer's disease by 100%. Well, 4 months later in June of 2012, in Science News, there was a wonderful article, lead article, and it said, good cholesterol, not beneficial. That's just the opposite of what your doctor says. And then it went on to say, high levels of HDL, high-density lipoprotein, the good cholesterol, will not reduce your risk of any type of heart disease. Because I already told you, there's not a single type of heart disease or cardiovascular disease that has anything to do with cholesterol or saturated fat. Congestive heart failure is a deficiency of a single vitamin. Cardiomyopathy heart disease is a deficiency of a single mineral. Coronary artery disease is due to inflammation, eating fried foods, processed meats, and oils, and gluten. And coronary thrombosis and thrombotic stroke is due to not cholesterol and saturated fat, but an omega-3 essential fatty acid deficiency and a ratio problem between omega-3, 6, and 9. Which one of those is caused by cholesterol? Zero, nada, zippo. Yet your doctor continues to write prescriptions for statin drugs, and he does. You want to go home tonight, sit down and say, I apologize, sir, but I have to fire you because you really don't care much about me because you're still prescribing statin drugs. What I've learned about what the FDA said about them, you shouldn't be prescribing to me, and so I'm going to let you know that I don't like it, and I'm going to make my voice clear by my checkbook and say you're fired. I'm going to find another doctor. Because you didn't think enough of me to forward that email to me that the FDA sent you. Oh, here it is. In 2009, the American Academy of Pediatrics wanted to get in on this large S, wanted to get in on this money dealing with cholesterol-lowering drugs. Listen, we're going to start giving statin drugs to kids under the age of 8. By the time they're 35, they won't have heart disease because we will have stopped it. Well, if you do that, none of your children will live to be 25. Do not buy into that. Do not start giving statin drugs and low cholesterol diets to your kids. And you'll see more why in a moment. Again, here's this Science News article. I didn't remember if it was the beginning here or the end. Maybe it's both places. Good cholesterol nuts are beneficial. This is June 2012. High HDL levels don't reduce heart attacks because cholesterol has nothing to do with heart attacks of any kind. The culture on Earth that has the fewest cardiovascular events for the Inuit Eskimos above the Arctic Circle has been more than a dozen scientific articles published in cardiology journals in the United States and the rest of the world. The Inuit Eskimos above the Arctic Circle, their cholesterols run 350 to 500. 98% of the traditional diet is walrus meat and walrus blubber, whale meat and whale blubber, seal meat and seal blubber, bear meat and bear fat. They do not eat vegetables or fruit. They don't eat grains or nuts. Again, their cholesterols run 350 to 500. They do not get cardiovascular disease until they come down to desert hot springs and eat like you. Then they go back up above the Arctic Circle and eat like Eskimos do, and it all goes away. It's the opposite of what your doctors say. Here's the whole story of cholesterol in 3 covers of Time magazine. Ansel Keys, who's on the board of the American Heart Association, on the board of Procter & Gamble. I mean, he even looks like a Nazi. Professor of medicine at the medical school at the University of Minnesota, Minneapolis. And he brokered the deal between Procter & Gamble and the American Heart Association. Procter & Gamble to give them $1.7 million to endorse Crisco as a healthier way to eat and cook instead of butter and cream. They said, oh, he was a wonderful guy. Made the cover of Time magazine, a hero. He saved the American heart by getting us aware of cholesterol. Well, by the 1980s, cholesterol was demonized. Everybody knew it was bad. Well, here comes June 23rd, 2014 cover article. Eat butter. Scientists labeled saturated fat the enemy, but why they're wrong tells the whole story of Ansel Keys and how he brokered the deal and how Procter & Gamble, the American Heart Association, screwed you for $1.7 million. Remember, the Nazis murdered 40 million people during the Second World War. Guess what? Statin drugs have killed over 1 billion people. And here's just a greater look at that one cover. Time magazine had the guts to do it, to put it on there, as bold as they could make it. The next major failed theory of the 20th and 21st century is genetics. There's not a single disease that's transmitted by genetics. There's not a single birth defect that's caused by genetics. All birth defects are caused by nutritional deficiencies in the embryo. All of them. Every one you can name, and 10 times that many you can't. We've eliminated all birth defects you can name, and 10 times that many you can't in the animal industry by supplementing them with all known essential nutrients, 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids. And every genetic disease or autoimmune disease you can think of, everything from lupus and Huntington's disease and cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease, kidney failure, lupus, all that kind of stuff, rheumatoid arthritis. None of these things have anything to do with anything the doctors have said. These are amongst the thousands of failed medical theories of the 20th and 21st century. The doctors have built their livings on it, and so why would they change? By 2003, they had the human genome mapped out. There were 850 biotech companies that spent trillions of dollars looking for screening tests to look at these little kids that are under 2 years of age. Oh, he's got a bad gene. He's going to get Alzheimer's disease by the time he's 62. He's going to get Parkinson's disease by the time he's 45. He's going to wind up with lupus when he's 37. And they make a gene in the laboratory and displace the bad gene with the good gene they made in the laboratory. I mean, that's the theory, right? Well, by March of 2013, 60 years after Watson and Crick had proposed the double helix as the structure of DNA, 60 years later, there had not been a single disease thought to be genetically transmitted, prevented, or cured with genetic engineering. And the people who are in the genetic engineering business started to get nervous because of all this failed theory background here. They think, usually we may have a problem here. They contacted James Watson, one of the two, James Watson, Francis Crick, Watson and Crick, the guys who got the Nobel Prize for the double helix structure of DNA. And Watson had become the director of the Cold Springs genetic laboratory in New York for the federal government, and this guy had his finger on the pulse of genetics, right? So they asked him to come to the University of California, San Diego, to the Salk Institute, March 22nd, 2013, and give a report. We didn't know where we're at. How close are we to finding a prevention or a cure for a genetic disease? Which one? Which ones? It's going to happen next week, 2 years from now. Where are we at? We don't know. We're groping around. We're spending trillions of dollars and nothing's happening. We want to know where we're at before we move forward. So again, to speak in front of an illustrious crowd of 300 people, 150 of them were Nobel Prize winners. 150 were heads of departments of genetics and biochemistry in medical schools in America. And here's what he said from the stage in front of this illustrious audience. I'm going to quote him now. He said, I apologize, by the way, I just realized I'm in traveling clothes here. I normally be a little more dressed up, but we had a tight schedule today, and we'd be 2 hours late if we went to the hotel and went on comms and all that kind of stuff and came back here. So I apologize for being in traveling clothes. Anyway, he got in front of this illustrious crowd, and he said, you can, none of what we thought was genetically transmitted is. It's all chemistry, biochemistry, aka nutritional deficiencies. That room went into an uproar. And then James Watson was terminated by the federal government for racial profiling. You understand what happened there? They fired him for the same reason they fired me from the Hurkies Primary Center. Because for telling the truth, they didn't want their empires to go away. They'd rather kill a bunch of kids rather than lose their jobs or have to change their thinking. Well, how many of you ever heard the term epigenetics? Okay, that's kind of funny. Everybody on this side of the room has heard of it. Well, my 14 books I've written for the general public, all of which are bestsellers, including this one. It's only been out for a year and it's already a bestseller. Epigenetics, the death of the genetic theory of disease transmission. This is me in 1977 with one of my cystic fibrosis monkeys at Yerkes Primate Center in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is what's replacing genetics, epigenetics. Epigenetics is a word that deals with potential. Why don't you think of epigenetics as you would a Lamborghini car? Let's say you've been gifted a Lamborghini car and while you're anxiously reading the maintenance manual. It says this car will go 300,000 miles without the need for even a tune-up in the engine. But to accomplish that, you're going to have to change it all every 1,000 miles. It has to be this very special oil, $25 a quart, $150 every 1,000 miles. And then this engine will go 300,000 miles. But let's say you're Scotch, you don't want to spend that money buying going, my gosh, man, it's expensive. And so you get 6 quarts of Texas dirt, or 6 quarts of dirt from Alberta, Canada, and you put it in that car. It says 6 quarts of oil, and say, there's oil in Texas, there's oil in Alberta. There's bound to be some oil in that dirt. Is that car going to go 300,000 miles? No. It might not even go around the block because there's sand in that dirt, and so it's going to seize up the engine and so forth. If that car has the potential of 300,000 miles, it might not go the distance certainly one tank of gasoline would take it. You just put dirt from Texas or Alberta, Canada in there. The death of the genetic theory of disease transmission. I'm going to show you a couple of slides from a special issue of National Geographic, January 2012, on epigenetics. They looked at identical twins, kind of like what Hitler was doing, but they didn't kill these kids like Hitler did, but they looked for the same reason. And these are identical twins, identical DNA. They're born 2 minutes apart. But to me, this one looked, as a primary care physician, this gal here looks like she's maybe 4 or 5 years older than this one. They look like sisters, but not identical twins. This one's an inch taller. Look at their ears, inch taller. Her eyes are closer together, even with the ground. This one's eyes are almost oriental, or kind of upset here. Their noses are different. Their chins, her chin is almost double the length of this one's chin. Her lips are fuller, like she's gone through puberty. This one hasn't gone through puberty. Their hairlines are different. The shapes of their face are different. Okay, they look like an older and younger sister as opposed to identical twins. Well, how can that happen if their DNA is identical and they're born just moments apart? Well, maybe this one gave her gummy bear vitamins to the dog under the table because she didn't like them. They stuck in her teeth. Maybe she didn't eat any carrots, and this one ate double the amount of carrots. Just that small amount of difference in what they took in their bodies make this much difference. And this is called epigenetics. The medical system has a pea-brained idea that genes are autonomous. They're going to do what they're going to do no matter what's going on around them. But genes and DNA and RNA and telomeres, the little end caps in your chromosomes, are nothing more than blueprints. Now, can you build a house with a blueprint alone? No. You need brick, you need wood, you need nails, you need mortar, you need electrical wiring, you need sewer pipes, you need copper pipes to get water into your kitchen, your shower. You need flooring, you need shingles for the roof, you need glasses and windows and all that kind of stuff. You need concrete for the foundation, the basement. Your genes and DNA and RNA are the same way. If you just eat well, you're not going to make it. If you depend on what may or may not be in the food you eat, you're screwed. But my doctor said all I have to do is eat well. The average lifespan of doctors, according to their own survey, which came out in 1999, published in 6 different medical journals, because they want to refute what I said they lived to be 58. They didn't like that. They said, well, it's got to be lying. That can't be right. That was another one of the 8 controversial things that was in my audio cassette tape in 1992. Dead doctors don't lie. If Wallach lied when they came out with theirs in 1999, the average medical doctor in America does not die at 58 like he says. We die at 56. And the reason why they didn't care that they showed they died 2 years earlier was they wanted to show that my science was bad. That's how crazy they are. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 more sets of identical twins born moments apart, identical DNA. To me, they look like cousins. They don't look like even sisters. Look at, again, the length of her chin versus the length of her chin. Look at the width of the lips. Her eyes are also upset here. Hers are parallel with the ground. Look at their noses are quite different. Hers comes straight out. This one's nose comes down. This one looks like she's been bench pressing 400 pounds. She got a neck like a fullback, and this one's neck is very slim, very feminine. These 2 guys are born moments apart, have the same DNA. They're identical twins. And the guy on your right, I wouldn't get in a car with him even with a loaded gun. Anybody ever look like a serial killer or Jeffrey Dahmer? He looked like the kind of guy who would eat you after he kills you, right? And then, of course, here's the identical twin brother. He looks like he's lost. I mean, he is a confused puppy. Yeah, he probably has OCD, obsessive compulsive disease. He also, depressed, and maybe even got a little bit of ADHD or something like that. I mean, they're the same genetics, but their shapes of their faces are just totally different. And that just happened during their sort of pre-teenage years as they're growing up and what they're eating, what they're not eating. Well, Wallach, there's got to be genetics because I have 3 generations of type 2 diabetes in my family. It's got to be genetic. Nope, absolutely not. Have you ever heard of gluten intolerance? Raise your hand. 78% of Americans are gluten intolerant. Most people don't even know, even doctors don't know what gluten intolerance does. Remember, I'm a pathologist. Gluten intolerance actually acts on your intestines like poison ivy does in your skin. When you put poison ivy juice on your skin, you're not getting an allergic reaction. You get what's called a contact dermatitis. It's like you put battery acid from your car battery in your arm. It's a contact dermatitis. When you're gluten intolerant, you're eating gluten, you're going to get what looks like somebody who's been eating poison ivy for salad. But that's how it affects the lining of your intestines. Okay, these villi, which rhythmically move food along, increase your absorptive surface by 85%, so your stomach is not just a smooth tube like a garden hose. These begin to go away. And you can get blood, you can get appendicitis, you can get diverticulitis, you can get celiac disease, you can get irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, you can get colitis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. All these are caused directly by their variations on gluten intolerance. Eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, rosacea, asthma, bronchitis, and multitudes, as you can imagine, multitudes of nutritional deficiencies. Once you lose 85% of the absorptive surface of your intestine, even if you're supplementing, you can't absorb enough to prevent these diseases. I'm chronically anemic and I still take iron. I just get constipated and get a black bowel movement, but I can't get rid of my iron deficiency anemia. Well, you're not absorbing it. You're gluten intolerant. I'm gluten-free. You have a dog? Yep. Yeah, your dog food you're giving have grain? Oh yeah, grain's good for him. Well, that's where you're getting your gluten, from the dog food. Just the dust from the dog food. If you're married and your spouse and you're gluten intolerant, your spouse won't give it up. Change the locks in the house. Put a washing machine, a microwave, and a refrigerator, and a bed in the garage. Put a little note, email a note saying, I've changed the lock, I've changed everything, and have living quarters in the garage, and you're going to stay out there until you or become gluten-free. Want to come back in the house with me? You have to be gluten-free for 3 months before you come in. Better start now. You're going to find out if they love you or not. My favorite Time magazine cover is from December 2008 because it tells us where we're at. It says, the sorry state of American health. Remember, this is December 2008. Despite technological advances in medicine, Americans are less healthy than we used to be, and our next generation of kids will be worse off. How many of you heard that our children will be the first generation that do not live as long as their parents? Raise your hand. Oh, look at that, almost everybody in the room. Now, that prediction will come true if you don't change what you're doing. Half of you in this room, at least half of you in this room, will be standing graveside bearing your children if you do not change what's going on right now. Okay? Medical system is not going to change. Doctors are not going to change. The government's not going to change. You're going to have to do it. You're going to become a student of this information, which I'm going to show you from here on out. If you do that, you can interrupt that prediction. That prediction is preventable if you take action. If you do not take action, your children are doomed to die before you do, and it will be an ugly, expensive, miserable, painful death for them. That's how serious this is. People say, well, why are you so rough on doctors? Well, I married a microsurgeon who taught at Harvard Medical School. It's not that I have a hard time with doctors, but there are no laws requiring them to cure the cure available. Let's say rheumatoid arthritis, I can cure that in 2 weeks. If it's a bug, I can kill that bug with a minocycline. Remember the tetracycline family in 2 weeks, and you take the healthy bone and joint pack. In a couple months, I can support and promote maintenance, repair, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, and all goes away. But if they treat you for 25 years, you joint replacements, give you Trexate, gold shot injections, and all these things, Enbrel, you can pick up a piece of paper like a golfer. Like on TV, right? Well, guess what? He makes $750,000 to treat you for 25 years. Now he makes $300 to cure you. There's no law requiring him to cure you, and there's a cure available. So let's see. Let's do a little figuring here. Which one is he going to choose most of the time? He can choose to treat you. That's why, with the exception of antibiotics, I can cure syphilis in 2 weeks with penicillin. I can cure bacterial meningitis. I can cure bacterial pneumonia with antibiotics. Antibiotics are the only drugs that pharmaceutical companies make to cure you. All other drugs are purposely built to treat the symptoms. Because that's how they make their money. If they cured you in 3 days, they wouldn't make their money back from all the research they did. They build drugs that only relieve the symptoms of the disease, never cure it, even though cures are available. You are an ATM machine. Do you understand that? You know what made it worse? It was health insurance. Health insurance is the worst possible thing for human health. Because let's say you have a chronic anemia, and you've been given iron supplements. Can't fix it because you have gluten intolerance. Can't absorb it. He's never told you to get off of gluten. Well, the only thing left here is a bone marrow transplant, $140,000. But don't worry about it. Insurance will pay. Oh, goody, goody, goody. Bam, you're dead. But then he still gets paid. Now, Time magazine seems to have a vendetta against doctors. Medical costs. Doctors are just wrapped in money and insurance policy. Why do you think medical doctors used the snake as part of their logo? In the old Bible days, who was it that brought knowledge that only God had to Eve? It was a serpent, wasn't it? And since doctors wanted to be gods, they said, we're going to really embrace that serpent, just in case that was correct. Because we want to know everything God knows, and the serpent's going to give it to us. Let's look at a few more here, and we'll get into diseases. But we have to look, it's only fair that we look, since I'm pointing a finger here, it's only fair that we look at the record. Okay, let's look at the scorecard. Is that fair? Just like you look at a scorecard of a professional athlete, Olympic athlete, you look at a scorecard of a teacher. Let's look at a scorecard of a doctor. Let's look at the AARP, American Association of Retired People. How many have heard of AARP? Let's look at their monthly bulletin. Cover story, March 2012. The worst place to be in America when you're sick is an American hospital. The number of American patients who die each year from American hospital errors or simple errors is equal to 4 jumbo jets crashing each week. Let's be conservative and say 1,500 a week, 3,000 every 2 weeks, that's 6,000 a month, 72,000 a year. How many of you would fly American Airlines if you knew that they killed 72,000 passengers every year from simple navigational errors? How many would eat Taco Bell if you knew they killed 72,000 patrons every year from simple errors in the kitchen? Newsweek magazine, cover article, came out, what is this? That's not the date. Oh, there we are. Here, August 2011. August 2011. The one word that's going to save your life from the medical system. This is the centerfold from that issue of Newsweek magazine, August 2011. This is the end of the month, and here's these doctors coming towards their patients. They look like good Christian doctors approaching the patient to give them help. No, they look like they're desperate because they have a Mercedes payment and don't have the money. And so the one word that's going to save your life is no. No! Do you realize when you put a roof on your house or a sprinkler system in your yard, you're going to get 5 different quotes and bids? You check them out, you render it down to the last 2 which you think are the best. Before you sign the contract, you take them now to Angie's List. The old days, you take them to the Better Business Bureau and see if they didn't finish their work, if they had complaints about the quality of their work, and then you would choose. You go to the same doctor for 25 years, never get a second opinion on any advice he gives you. I'm going to rip your heart out and put some dead guy's heart in. Oh, okay. Thank you. Don't worry about it, Fred. Insurance can pay. Oh, thank you. And then Reader's Digest, of course, a fuzzy, warm little magazine. Every doctor and dentist has this in their waiting room, right? Mm-hmm. Because they always have the greatest love stories. Dog pulls kid out of the house fire by the collar. Little 4-year-old Lucy calls 911 to save grandma when she had a heart attack. And so most doctors and dentists never read these. They just throw them in the lobby because they don't know to be warm, fuzzy stories. But I guarantee you this one was not in the waiting room of any doctor. June 2007. Now this does not say, if you look here, this doesn't say fatal hospital mistakes you can avoid. It doesn't say that. That's what it looks like it says, but it doesn't say that. What it says is, hospital mistakes you can avoid. Look at the size of the font. Look at the colors, blood red. I want you to look at Angelina Jolie. Had her breast cut off because she had the genes, for breast cancer. Oh. I've been saying this since the 1960s and 70s when I'm doing all those autopsies. All the genetic stuff they were saying was wrong, as I'm seeing it on the autopsy table, 454 species of animals, 3,000 humans. And it got pretty ugly there, right? Well, Angelina Jolie believed the doctor, the OB-GYNs, and had her breast cut off. Well, in today's newspaper from San Diego, all the data they've accumulated actually disputes claims that there is a gene for breast cancer. Do not get your breast cut off if your doctor claims you have breast cancer. Big headlines in the San Diego newspaper today. I said that in 1971, which is 45 years ago. Because the genetic theory is one of the failed medical theories of the 20th and 21st century. This is one of my favorite stories because they show you the sources of the figures that they get. There's a full-page story, February 5th, 2007, USA Today. Look at the title, Patient Protect Thyself. And they got the story from the Institute of Medicine, which is the ethics watchdog for the medical profession, the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is the most prestigious medical journal, certainly in America, maybe the world, and then the Center for Disease Control, which I used to do some work for when I was in Atlanta at the Yerkes Primate Center, that tracks this kind of stuff. And this is a yearly figure I'm going to give you. This is a yearly figure that they gave. It's not a lifetime of accumulation. This is a yearly figure. Every year, they said every year in America, medical doctors kill, injure, and infect 15 million patients in hospitals and clinics. Every Every year in America, medical doctors kill, injure, and infect 15 million patients in their hospitals and clinics. Nobody gets their license suspended for 3 seconds. Christ, Fred, I gotta have a couple of martinis. I just killed 3 people today. Don't worry about it, Frank. I killed 5. Let's have 3 martinis. Let's break that down a little bit. That's a big figure. Let's just look at infections in hospitals. Let's just look at C. diff, Clostridium difficile, which is a human poop bacteria, okay? Center for Disease Control. We're looking at March 1998, a yearly figure. Center for Disease Control, not me. I'm just a reporter here. 2 million Americans are infected in hospitals each year, yearly, from C. diff, because doctors don't wash their hands after they go potty. It's a human poop bacteria. Of these 2 million infections each year in hospitals alone, not clinics and private offices, but just hospitals, 90,000 of these people die each year. 90,000 die each year. I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question here. What if North Korea or Iran were to send over intercontinental ballistic missiles with a biological weapon to our large population centers and infect 2 million people? LA, Dallas, Texas, San Diego, Seattle, Washington, Denver, Colorado, places like Chicago. What about Atlanta, New York, Newark, New Jersey, Philadelphia? And infect 2 million people with a biological weapon and kill 90,000. Once. Beware! I don't care if you're liberal, I don't care if you're conservative and independent, everybody without flickering an eyebrow would sign off on a declaration of war if they killed 90,000 Americans in one attack. Wouldn't they? You don't answer yes, you're lying and counting. So why is it that not one doctor gets arrested? They kill 90,000 every year, government figures. Infect 2 million in the workplace. They don't even get an OSHA ticket. They don't get the equivalent fine of a parking ticket, for God's sakes. They've been a protected monopoly since 1914 in the Flexner Report. Look it up, Google it, Flexner Report, 1914. They've been a monopoly, self-policing, no oversight by any agency, and that same law killed off all their competition. And the worst possible thing that happened right after that was they got insurance. Oh my God. It became an ATM machine before there was an ATM machine. We're beginning to get the picture here. But my doctor belongs to my church. I just love him. Even the mafia goes to church. So church presence in of itself without what's going on in here doesn't count much, does it? Well, let's look at a couple more pieces here, then we'll get into diseases. Let's just look at pharmaceuticals, and then we'll look at the financial costs. We've been looking at human suffering and death. Let's look at financial costs in this one piece here. Let's just look at pharmaceuticals. This came out in 2006 and 2006. It was a report by the Institute of Medicine. Again, the ethics watchdog for the medical system, not me. They said these types of errors occur yearly. These are decimal point errors, but prescribing physician, now all they looked at was decimal point errors by the prescribing physician and by the fulfilling pharmacist. In America alone, each year, yearly, amounts to 1.5 million fatalities and permanent injuries. The street drug dealers only kill 10,000 Americans every year. You're safer by getting street drugs from a drug dealer on the street than you are from your own doctor. This is very, very, very scary. Guess what's going to happen to your kids if you don't take control here? That's what I'm going to show you next. I'm going to show you how to take control. Because if you don't do this, you will be burying your kids. September 7, 2012, it's on the front page of every newspaper in America. Everybody thought this was a government waste study. U.S. healthcare waste $750 billion, $750 billion, 1/3 American health budget. So who cares? We're not going to read the article because everybody knows the government waste stuff. But that's not what the article was about. The article was about was your physician and how he bills your insurance company. What it said was roughly 30 cents out of every medical dollar billed to your insurance company was billed for unneeded care. Things the doctor did to you that you didn't need, but he needed the money, so he did something. He didn't bill the insurance company. There's no oversight, so it's never looked at as a crime because nobody ever looks at it. They're self-policing. Like a mafia boss being put on trial, and everybody in the jury is a member of his family. I'm talking about the blood family. I'm talking about his crime family. Okay? And then they went on to say fraud contributes to this also. Fraud is they just bill for stuff because there's no time to get you in for a procedure. And he needs the money now, so he just puts in a bill, goes through, there's no oversight. That's not me. That's the Institute of Medicine. The ethical watchdog for the American Medical Association. Bernie Madoff went to jail for life plus 150 years for a lifetime of fraud. You know, remember the stockbroker? He went to jail for life plus 150 years because over a 30-year professional career, he defrauded all of his investors of $3 billion. Well, here's one trade that every year defrauds their customers of $750 billion. And nobody goes to jail, nobody gets an ocean ticket, nobody gets a fine equal to a parking ticket. Nobody has their license suspended for 3 seconds. When do you get pissed off enough to do something? Any veterans in here? Oh, good. Let's give them a hand, folks. I spent 5 years in the Army and 15 years in the Air Force. And so I have a special love for veterans and people who work to save this country from enemies foreign and domestic. Now, when my CD came out, my audio cassette tape came out in 1992. In 1998, the State Medical Association of New York invited me to speak to their association meeting where they have continuing medical education where members can get credit to maintain their licenses. And they just said, please don't use the title Dead Doctors Don't Lie in Your Speech. Here's something else. We want to know what we're doing wrong so we can fix it. Please tell us that, but don't use that title. So I came up with Medical Mousetrap. Seems kind of benign. So if you want to listen to something fun, get that audio or the CD, Medical Mousetrap. In there, I said many things, but the one thing that caused havoc at that meeting was they said you have 2 opportunities to give your life to your country. One's on the field of battle and the other's in the VA hospital. Remember, I said that in 1998. You have 2 opportunities to give your life to your country. One's on the field of battle and the other's in the VA hospital. I mean, the VA doctors were there in that meeting. They ran up the middle aisle screaming at me, profanities at me, and wadding up the programs and throwing at me. It was like mayhem. And because I was ready to defend myself, right? And so it was recorded and given to the Department of Veterans Affairs. Well, the next year, exactly the year later, December 1999, a report was given. Cover story in the New York Times. It was a big story because they had to do the investigation because of what I said. This is a horrible story, but it's got to be told. They said there's hundreds of thousands of minor mistakes made in the VA system in America every year. 3,000 serious mistakes that require the veteran to remain in the hospital for the remainder of their life in a coma, usually from some botched procedure. Of those 3,000 serious mistakes every year, the VA doctors killed, look at the word they used, killed 700 veterans. In Afghanistan, last year, the enemy on the field of battle only killed 375 Americans. The VA doctors killed 700. When you get pissed off enough to do something. They haven't fired one of those people yet. Oh, they're government employees. We can't touch them. Oh, if I was U.S. Surgeon General, the head of the Department of Human Health and Affairs, I would grab him by the belt and the scruff of the neck, throw him out in the street, kick him a few times, say, come on, sue me in federal court. Let's see what a federal jury says about what I bring up against you, what you did to those veterans. Come on, Frank, let's go at it. Your elected officials don't have the balls to do it. The union will vote against me. They're not your representatives anymore. They're their own representatives.
That's right.
Hmm?
That's right.
And so, if it's going to change, you're going to have to change. You're going to have to be proactive here to save this country. I'll show you one more horror story, and we'll get into the diseases. This is a true story. It was a cover article 8 years ago. This is Shar's favorite story in the Orlando newspaper. We were having a meeting here about 8 years ago, and this happened to be the cover story on the front page, Sunday newspaper, the Orlando newspaper. about a 28-year-old woman, a Hispanic girl, from a low-income family. And because she's from a low-income family, she used the county medical facilities for prenatal care and for pregnancy and all that. And she goes into labor. So the hospital she'd been going to, the county hospital, pages the doctor. And he calls up. Remember, this is 8 years ago. He calls up and says, "Okay, what's going on?" "Well, so and so is going into labor, and you're her doctor. We invite you to come deliver the baby." "I'm on the 14th hole here." He was golfer, the doctor's golfer. "I'm on the 14th hole. I'm way ahead, and I'm reluctant to come in before I'm finished. I've only got 4 more holes, so I'll be in a couple hours." Figures first baby, started labor, might be 12 hours, right? So that's how he's thinking. So they page him again about 45 minutes. "Oh, this baby's crowning. He's coming fast. And we urge you to get here now because there's no other doctor here. If there's something wrong, she needs a cesarean. She's bleeding. You're the doctor. We're just warning you. You need." So he shows up half hour later, and he is pissed because he lost his beer or whatever it was that he couldn't win because he couldn't finish the game. He marches through the clean room, doesn't scrub, doesn't put on any clean clothes, doesn't wash his hands. He walks in, he immediately cuts her arms off the elbows, cuts her legs off the groin, and then he delivers the baby. He did it 6 months later to another woman who disturbed his golf game. He's still working at that hospital in Orlando, Florida. True story. Look it up. This is the most horrible example of what a doctor can do who's employed by a government system. If I were her daddy, nobody's going to do that to my baby girl without paying the price, right? I would have only been found guilty of temporary insanity. Okay, here we go. Now you know the basis of why you need change. And here comes some change. We're going to go fast now because I know you can handle it. Let's look at obesity. We already told you it's not a factor of eating too much and lack of exercise. It's a simple nutritional deficiency. But it's one of the things that's breaking America. How many of you have heard of the word globesity? Globesity? Okay, if you have heard that. Every country that's on the edge of going from a third world culture to a first world culture, they beginning to be industrialized. The first thing that happens to them is they all become obese. Not from increased calories. Not from more Coca-Cola being sent over there with high fructose corn syrup. I'll show you why in a moment. In fact, that's why I've been invited to speak to the United Nations General Assembly in October of this year for an hour and a half on the subject. Isn't that cool? You've seen this already tonight. Hell's Kitchen, the cause, prevention, cure of obesity. Experts are telling us that 70% of our kids under the age of 12 are overweight, 40% of our kids under the age of 12 are obese, 30 pounds or more of their ideal weight for their height. Has nothing to do with lack of exercise and eating too much. It's a simple nutritional deficiency disease. I'm going to give you a clue here. This little girl, 3 years old, Natalie Hayhurst from Terre Haute, Indiana, was on every news program, TV, radio, and every newspaper in America. Okay? And this about, 3 years ago now. 3 years ago now. And she was famous because she ate light bulbs. And thank God there's no calories in light bulbs, otherwise she'd have been obese. So what's going on here? She has the same disease that pregnant women have. Raise your hand if you've heard that pregnant women get cravings and weird appetites. Yeah, and that's why they gain baby fat. They call it baby fat, right? I can never lose my baby fat. I exercise, I cut my calories, and I can't lose that baby fat. Because it's a nutritional deficiency. A couple years ago, I went to Brazil and gave some lectures. Everything there is in Portuguese. Newspapers, magazines, radio, TV. Only one English newspaper, so I would read that every day. And then there's a great story for a pregnant woman who ate 20 bath sponges, a day per pregnancy, She also ate the sand and the parrot poop from the bottom of the parrot cage in her house every day. There's some weird appetite, right? Putting sand into the sandwiches, mother to these bizarre cravings during her 2 pregnancies. Now, in animals, particularly horses, they chew on the fences, they chew on the stall rails. This is called cribbing. Okay? This is a little horse and buggy Amish farm barn. I was there to see a bunch of kids with muscular dystrophy. We deal a lot with muscular dystrophy in the Amish community. We're reversing it like crazy. And we gave this information to Jerry Lewis 5 years ago, said, hey, you earned the right to be the one to make the announcement. We found the prevention and cure. And guess what? They fired him. That's why he hasn't done the telethon. I wouldn't give him the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation maggots from a dead dog, let alone money, because they fired Jerry Lewis. They fired Jerry Lewis when he brought him the cure for muscular dystrophy. Anyway, you can tell that horse whether you didn't even need to look at it, didn't need to do any blood samples to know that that horse is nutritionally deficient. It's called cribbing in horses. Cribbing in horses equal to munchies in people. Munchies in people, cribbing in horses. And horses, for cribbing, we give them minerals, and in 3 days' time it goes away. It's much cheaper to give them minerals than it is to rebuild the barn, because they'll leave the barn looking for minerals. So in humans, instead of letting them go drink high fructose corn syrup Pepsis or Coca-Colas or Mountain Dew, you give them minerals with their supplements, and guess what? They don't even crave it. They won't even like it. If you gave it to them, they wouldn't drink it. So we deal with thousands of people a day. They come to us, they're obese, thousands a day. And they'll lose a half a pound to 2 pounds a day. I'll show you one example, but we have thousands a day. They'll lose 25 pounds if they need it. They'll lose 140 pounds in 100 days, that kind of stuff. This fella here, a pastor from Charlotte, North Carolina, Ivan Ledbetter, he was 6'1". Here's his son who plays basketball and football. You know, he weighs about 260, he's 6'5", but he's 423 pounds. Pastor. We put him on the program for a weight loss. It's called the Healthy Weight Loss Pack, right? And he lost 17 pounds in the first week. Started ASAP, which is part of the program, as slim as possible, as soon as possible. Lost 60 pounds in the first 30 days at 2 pounds a day. Went from 400 pounds at that point to 165 pounds in 7 months. And here he is, 7 months later. Oh yeah, he was also on dialysis and had high blood pressure and diabetes, and all that's gone. We got him off of dialysis, we got rid of his high blood pressure, and his type 2 diabetes is gone because of a simple deficiency of a single mineral. Now dialysis is, there's nothing wrong with your kidney when you have dialysis, or excuse me, when you have kidney failure, and they put you on dialysis, there's nothing wrong with your kidney. What happens is you get obstructive disease, you get inflammation, obstructive artery disease in your kidneys, and the filters won't work in the kidneys because they isn't getting the dirty blood to work on. And so the kidneys just go into hibernation. So the filtration rate goes down, the creatinine goes up because it can't do anything because there's no dirty blood getting in there. So about 25 years ago, we learned how to encourage the obstructed arteries to allow blood to come through, okay? And we got the blood flowing again. And we take people who haven't urinated in 10 years, on dialysis 6 days a week for 10 years. And they've been on dialysis 10 years before that. Maybe in 2 weeks to 2 months, they start urinating again. And another couple of months are off of dialysis, even if they've had diabetes for 30 years. In 30 days, they're next diabetic. Type 1, you might be able to reduce the amount of medication they take by 90%, but they'll always have to take a little bit of insulin because they don't make any, or not enough. Type 2 diabetics, they make 10 times more than they really need. There's just no communication for the insulin to the cells until you give them that nutrient. And then suddenly it all works. Been doing it for 36 years and it never fails. It never fails. Kind of like having a combination lock. It always works. We already talked about athletes, so we don't have to go into detail there. Now comes the real basic stuff. Now stay awake here, folks, because this is what's going to save you and your children, your brothers and sisters, your church mates, your neighbors, your workmates. This is going to, I can make America a type 2 diabetes-free country in 2 months. Okay, again, that's why they're having me speak to United Nations in October this year. Because those two diseases, obesity and diabetes, are breaking industrialized nations financially. Well, there are 20 cultures that the National Geographic ranks as the top 20 longevity cultures. That's one of my passions I want to live to be 200 or more and be biologically like 30. It's doable, but you're going to have to give your genes, your DNA, your RNA, and your telomeres everything they need to maximize your genetic potential for longevity and health and fending off disease and speed and strength and intelligence. Just like putting the right type of oil in your Lamborghini every 1,000 miles. Same principle, right? And so I want to know, what is it with these top 20 longevity cultures where each one of them features a cover article in the National Geographic over the last 60 years? How come the National Geographic didn't put them all in one issue? That was my question. So we put them all in one book. We found out that these top 20 longevity cultures have 40 times 100-year-olds we do. They have 100 per 250 of the population. We have 100 per 10,000. They have 40 times 100-year-olds we do. They're illiterate. They're third world cultures. They do not have doctors, insurance, government or private. They do not have emergency services. They don't have hospitals or clinics. They have no utilities, no indoor plumbing. They have no roads, no cars, no phones, no TVs, no radios, no computers. They don't have anything you would think of as being modern. Why would you go there for anything, for God's sakes? They don't even have a drive-through of any kind. Who would you build a drive-through if nobody has cars and you all they do is move around in burrows, right? Well, it turns out they have 23 common threads, which you all can do at home. So we put all these 23 common threads based on each culture. We did each culture, and then we have a summary on all cultures, all the statistics put together in here. Very simple for you to pick out what you need to do. I'm going to show you some details in a moment. But basically, again, one of the things they do is live on a calorie-restricted diet. How many of you heard that a calorie-restricted diet will help you live longer? Okay, good, about 25% of you. A calorie-restricted diet works because if you eat a lot of food, you need more nutrition to deal with it, to metabolize that food. If you're taking less calories, you don't need so much nutrition. So if you're a little deficient, it won't make a big difference. If you're taking lots of calories, if you're a little bit deficient, it's going to kill you. Get the picture? That's why a calorie-restricted diet works, is because you don't need so much nutrition. None of them get any bad stuff. Push you to build a drive-through again for people who move around in burrows, so they don't get fried foods, they don't get carbonated drinks and all that kind of stuff. They do get the 90 essential nutrients. I'll show you how they do that in a minute. They take in 10 times the ORAC points we do, which is a measurement of how many free radicals are neutralized by the antioxidants in their food. This is May 2013, cover article, National Geographic. They had 5 different issues of this one issue of the magazine, one printing of the magazine. They had 5 different covers. Everything inside the magazine is exactly the same. Everything on the cover is exactly the same except for the picture of the kid. 1/5 of the issues had a picture of a brown kid, another 1/5 had a black kid, another one had an Oriental kid, another one had a white kid, another one had a Native American kid. And every one of the races took the picture of their baby on the cover, which you would assume that's what they would do. So they sold more issues of this one magazine made 2013 than any others because everybody wanted a picture of their own baby. Let's look at billionaires. I've been asking, gosh, for 20 years, Forbes magazine and other organizations, tell me about billionaires. I want to know what sicknesses they get. I want to know what their average lifespan is, what they die from. I came up with a CD called What Kills Billionaires, and they got permission from me to use it as a title for one of their articles. In 2004, this came out. You can look up my CD, What Kills Billionaires. And they said the average lifespan of a billionaire is 78. Well, again, people living under the bridge live to be 78. That's not too exciting. So they got the top personal trainers. They had exercise equipment put in their limos where they drove from home to work every morning so they could work out on the way to work. They put gymnasiums in their offices and in their homes. But the doctors told them that these people who live a long time, you know, they work hard physically 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're living on computers, and so that's why you're having all these problems. So they decided they want to work hard. You know, give me 10 more! Sweat! No pain, no gain! Why these billionaires are just working out like crazy. Well, March 2011, they reran the study, Forbes magazine. And remember, in 2004, their average lifespan was 78. In 2011, their average lifespan was 66. They lost 12 years. Lost 12 years of average lifespan and 12 years of time. Now, how'd that happen? They were working out. They were eating meals that were $1,000 each. I mean, organic and prepared by the best 5-star vegan chef and all that kind of stuff. But not one person told them to take the 90 essential nutrients. So nobody took vitamins and minerals. Just like athletes, same principle. And they all die. Just like this fella here, he chose poorly. He had a 5-star vegan chef, exactly as the chef said. A smart techie, a billionaire, died at 56. Ask Steve Jobs what just eating well did for him. Bam! He was dead. Now, the oldest man in America ever recorded and documented was a guy by the name of George Francis, who died in December of 2008. He lived in the swamps of Louisiana, so you already know where I'm going. He lived in the swamps of Louisiana. He was illiterate. He lived in a cabin that was built by his great-great-granddaddy during the slave days. He died at 112, documented by the U.S. government, and he outlived 19 U.S. presidents. He lived through 19 U.S. presidents, the average lifespan of whom was 75. The doctors who cared for these 19 U.S. presidents, whose average lifespan was 56, exactly half of George's age. And here's his daughter reading the newspaper to him because he was illiterate. When he died at 112, the reporters asked his daughter what her daddy did to be 112. She said he broke all the rules of healthy eating. Who came up with the rules of healthy eating? Medical doctors who lived to be 56. No cholesterol, no saturated fat, more oils, bam, you're dead. I love it when newspaper reporters interview little old ladies who are 110, 112. There was one in the newspaper this morning who just had her 116th birthday. She's classed as the oldest living person right now in the world that's documented. I think probably in the United States, I wouldn't say the world, but certainly in the United States, the oldest living person. And they asked her what she attributed her long, healthy life to. She says, it's God. Well, I believe that. I could go for that. But I believe it's more than God. I think it's God's systems. Now, if you tap into God's systems, you're going to do better than if you just believe in God and you don't tap into His systems. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of like being on the prayer list and never doing anything. Being on the prayer list isn't quite enough. You have to change all the bad stuff, right? And do more of the good stuff. You have to take some responsibility here. So I really appreciated his daughter's answer. She said he broke all the rules of healthy eating with a diet heavy is the word she used, on dairy products, eggs, and large sandwiches. How people ate before Crisco. Huh? Now he lived in this cabin and had a pot-belly stove and a dirt floor. He made his living by catching crawdads and catfish to sell at Cajun restaurants. And he lived to be 112. Are you getting the picture here? It's always a third world situation. It's never a billionaire. It's never the top $60 million a year athlete who lives to be 100. It's always the third world culture person. Always! I'm going to show you why. We know exactly why. Because when you examine all of them, and you have a degree in agriculture, so you kind of inspect that piece. You have a degree in veterinary medicine, you inspect that piece. I'm a pathologist, and I looked at that. And I'm a primary care physician, I looked at that. So we know exactly why this is the scenario that it is. Now, how many ever heard of rare earths? Raise your hand, rare earths. Okay, well, rare earths have to do, in modern times with computers, you know, one little battery the size of a BB that's made out of a rare earth can power a whole town. I mean, it's really powerful stuff. And rare earths, there's 9 of them that I know of, and 6 of them have been heavily researched. And research shows that they actually double the lifespans of laboratory animals. Let's say you take laboratory rats, you give them a half of them, Ralston Purina laboratory rat pellets, and they live to be 6 years old. They give this another group, the study group, you give them the same alfalfa pellets from laboratory rat pellets from Ralston Purina, but you grind them up into powder, you throw in any one of the rare earths, any one of them, ytterbium, yttrium, samarium, europium, neodymium, praseodymium, any one of those that have been studied. Put any one of them, 1/1000th of 1 microgram, 1/1000th of 1 microgram in that pellet. It'll double the lifespan. It'll live to be 12 instead of 6. And so in that book, Rare Earths, Forbidden Cures, which talks about all these mineral deficiencies that would cause people to be obese, and all these different diseases, including diabetes and muscular dystrophy and cystic fibrosis and all these other birth defects and lupus and all that kind of stuff. These rare earths are talked about quite heavily in here, and also the book Immortality. Now, Lucian LePay, the head of the Department of Public Health at Harvard Medical School in 1990, wanted to do something for America. So he did a study county by county. He was looking for the secret. Which county in America was going to live the longest? And he checked the medical records of every county in the United States, sent teams out to look at them, and he found the ones that lived the longest, and he found the ones that lived the shortest. There was a 25-year difference. And he said, you know, there's got to be some difference in how they treat patients in the hospitals and how GPs treat their patients. And the ones that lived the longest, he put in purple, and he found they lived in the Midwest, the upper Midwest, and the Plain States for both females and males. Okay, the purple lived the longest. And the ones in the yellow, orange, and red, like in the old Confederate States, Cook County, Chicago, Lake County, Gary, Indiana, west of the Mississippi River, they're almost all red, orange, and yellow, or in Indian reservations. These people don't live as long as the people in purple. 25-year difference. And so, what is it? They all have the same medical care. Even people living under the bridge get the same medical care. As a billionaire. I mean, somebody living under the bridge, if they can stumble into the emergency room, those emergency room doctors give them the very best care. Because you pay for it. So just because they're living on the bridge doesn't mean they're going to get neglected. I mean, they get every test they're going to be. They're going to get treated the best, get hospital care, right? So everything's the same. So if the medical system is the same, why is there a 25-year difference between the ones in the Midwest, upper Midwest, and the Plain States, and the old Confederate States, and Chicago, and Gary, Indiana, and the Indian reservations? 25-year difference, that's significant. Because of how they eat and the nutrition in the soil where they live. So we're beginning to get a picture here. Let's just show you one disease. Let's just look at cardiovascular disease. Don't you notice that that's kind of the same patterns I just showed you on just longevity? The worst places are in the burgundy, the dark red. You notice in Alaska there's no heart disease. All the Eskimos are eating nothing but whale meat and whale blubber. Their cholesterols are 350 to 500. They don't even have any cardiovascular disease. Wow. Ground zero for the worst possible place in America for heart disease and obesity and diabetes and cancer is Jackson, Mississippi, where I'm going Monday. I lecture about 6 times a year, trying to save people, okay, as many as I can. So what's going on here? Well, there's little or no selenium in the soil here, little or no selenium in the soil in these places, okay? And as a result, they get cardiomyopathy, heart disease, they get cataracts, they get obstructive artery disease, they get all kinds of stuff. They get fibromyalgia, they get baby with birth defects of muscular dystrophy, and so on. But heart attacks are a big thing here, sudden heart attacks. I'm going to show you a quick one here. It has to do with gluten intolerance. I really need to move this up close where I already talked about gluten, but this is a little UC. He's 3 months old here being breastfed by his mama. He's born with his eczema over every square millimeter of his body, his little penis, his butt, up in his nostrils and his eyelids. His sclera, the whites of his eyes are covered with eczema. He has asthma. He was born that way. His mama was 28 years old. She had the same thing, asthma and eczema. When she was born, it got worse and worse and worse. At age 28, it was really bad for her. The pediatrician who was caring for UC told her to get one of these infant monitors. When he wheezed at night, run in there and spray him with an inhaler for his asthma. Told him to keep his fingernails clipped, put mittens on him, and put cortisone cream on him to stop the itches for his eczema. Well, he put her on a gluten-free diet, gave her the 90 essential nutrients, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids. In 2 weeks' time, her asthma or eczema she'd had, which was getting worse for 28 years. Now remember, she's breastfeeding him. All the nutrients are coming through her breast milk. And in the same 2 weeks that she got rid of her asthma and eczema, well, UC's asthma and eczema went away. When he's 2 years of age, he's on his own gluten-free diet and his own 90 essential nutrients. You can tell by looking at him he doesn't have asthma or eczema anymore. Now, if he had been left alone and not given the 90 essential nutrients and stayed on a gluten-free diet, the odds are he would have died by this time. Are you getting a picture here?
Yeah.
This is in your hands. You can't unknow what you know. You can't put the genie in the bottle now. The scary thing is you know more than most doctors at this point. It's not scary that you know it. It's scary that they don't know it. And they're seeing hundreds of patients every week, which is very, very scary. The same thing works with psoriasis. It takes a little bit longer, 4 to 6 weeks for psoriasis to go away. How many of you ever heard of lupus? Raise your hand. You know, if you've seen anybody with lupus, systemic lupus, they have this rosacea on their face, this little butterfly rash on their face is very characteristic. And you get them on a gluten-free diet, get them in the 90 essential nutrients appropriate for their body weight, lupus goes away in a couple of weeks. Not an autoimmune disease, it's a simple nutritional deficiency caused by the lack of the villi in the intestine. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the 90 essential nutrients, and then we'll summarize it up. How long do you need water? For life. How long do you need oxygen? For life. Now you got, well, that didn't take long, you learned quick. How long do you need the 90 essential nutrients?
For life.
Okay, you got it. This is not difficult, is it? You think some people as clever as doctors should be able to figure that out? 90 essential nutrients. They're called essential nutrients for multiple reasons, but the two most important ones, you can't make them. You must eat them every day. Either as food or supplements or a combination usually of both food and supplements. Also, they're missing for any length of time. You get horrible diseases, all of which are ultimately fatal. You need 60 minerals, which are 2/3 of the 90 essential nutrients, so the minerals are important. You need 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids, and all these are required by your genes, your DNA, your RNA, your telomeres to maximize your genetic potential for longevity and for health and fending off disease and strength and speed and intelligence and all the things you think of as being dealt with by genetics. Your gene does not work in an autonomous fashion. It requires all these raw materials to function at its optimal capacity, just like that Lamborghini car. This is an article from the April 16, 2012 issue of Food Chemistry, a very well-respected journal. I read it all the time. But I wrote the first paper on the mass alpha in America from pollution. It was published in 1962. And this has to do with reporting of foods that are harvested every month from the United States, county by county, listed by county, and tells you the pollution load in, which I was interested in. Plus, I began to learn what nutrients were in foods grown in different places. You can see how they occur in strange patterns. Well, in this particular issue, April 16, 2012, they looked at the nutritional value and pollution load in the top 8 baby formulas. Gerber's, Infamil, Similac, ones you're very familiar with, many are probably raised on, right? What they said was, commercially available baby foods may contain less than 20% of the recommended levels of many minerals and vitamins. Remember, you need 60 minerals. I defy you to find any commercially available baby food in the store. Go look at Infamil, Similac, and Gerber baby formulas on the shelf in the grocery stores. Find me one that has 60 minerals. Most of them only have 13 or less, somewhere between 9 and 13. There's another one of my 8 lawsuits. I had to sue them in federal court to get selenium in there. Okay? I want you to look that up. So what you're going to have to do to save your babies and grandbabies, what you're going to have to supplement them because it's not in the food. Now, now I'm going to show you something because I think you'll recognize this, but I think it's important. It's worth 2 or 3 minutes. This is a Sunday magazine from the Globe and Mail, which is kind of the USA Today type newspaper. It's a national newspaper in Canada. It comes out every day, including the weekend. This is a weekend magazine, kind of like Parade magazine to them. And the doctors up there were having impact. Char alone, Char, why don't you stand up for a minute and wait, everybody. She's been with me for 25 years. She's responsible for 500,000 of my patients. Okay? She deals with them electronically every day. She feeds me information, feeds them information, right? And so Canada, they're having quite an interesting time because she has 25,000 patients in Canada alone, in Ontario, just right there in Ontario. And so the doctors up there are getting offended a little bit. And so they say, why would you want to take all these vitamins and minerals for nutrients when you can just eat well? Just eat well, you get everything you need. Well, I defy you to tell me how many milligrams of calcium you're going to get from a 1-inch wedge of that green apple. Would you want to do a $2,500 analysis out of every piece of food you eat, find out what's in it, so you can then make up the supplement? I defy you to tell me how many international units of vitamin A or beta-carotenes in a 1-inch wedge of that tomato without an analysis. What about folic acid? How many micrograms of folic acid or selenium is in a 1-inch wedge of that yellow bell pepper? But I know how much is in every one of these things. I wouldn't take all that stuff, but you know, we have liquids that have 245 nutrients in a liquid. You don't have to take all those pills and capsules, right? So we got it down to a science. to where you can guarantee you're going to get everything. Now, Shar, you've been taking enough stuff by body weight for a 200-pound guy twice a day for how long now?
Going on 25 years.
Going on 25 years. When was the last time you were sick?
I really wasn't sick.
I want you to stand up again, please. Yeah, face the audience, please. And April 7th, you turned how old?
72.
When you do this, ladies and gentlemen, you will always look 30 to 50 years younger. Now, in a week, I'm turning 76. I haven't been to a doctor in 68 years. I've never been on prescription medication. I've never had any surgery. My blood pressure runs 90/60. My pulse is 36. And Char was a witness. We had the insurance companies sent a nurse practitioner and a PA to my house because I refused to go see doctors. And so, because they threatened to murder me, by the way, on the air, on the radio, because they thought they were on the telephone. We have that recorded. And so at any rate, so I had them as witnesses that actually had this done by PAs and nurse practitioners for the insurance company, for my life insurance for my wife, if something happens to me. And they just said, well, you need to be on blood thinners. Your pulse is only 36. You're going to get a blood clot. I'm not going to get a blood clot. I take in 19 grams, 19,000 milligrams of omega-3s every day because I fly so much. I don't want a pulmonary embolism or a coronary thrombosis or a thrombotic stroke. So I take in 19 grams, 19,000 milligrams of these omega-3s every day, along with all the other 89 essential nutrients, right? And so I'm not worried about a blood clot because it's not going to happen. Hadn't happened in 68 years, right? And so what did rich people, pharaohs, do 8,000 years ago to get their minerals? They paid grave robbers great sums of silver and gold to get them mummies who were supposed to live forever. And they would grind these mummies up and eat mummy dust as their source of minerals. Just like bone meal, or what do you call it? Supplements that come from coral reefs. Coral is just skeletons of little animals, little sea animals. And so why not a skeleton of a human being? Well, it's called mortuary cannibalism. It's illegal today. You probably couldn't get away with it. You probably couldn't afford it today. But that's how they got their minerals. Well, subsistence farmers and slaves couldn't afford these things. And so where did they get their nutrients? Let's kind of look at this a little bit. Let me try to change this place a little bit here. Anyway, how many of you remember going to your grandma and grandpa's house? You're old enough to remember going to your mom and dad's house and had a wood stove. Anybody remember the wood stove days? Okay. What did your mom and dad or your grandma and grandpa, what did they do with the wood ashes? They put them in the recycling bin to save the earth. Where did the wood ashes go?
In the garden.
In the vegetable garden. Exactly right. Went to the vegetable garden. Now, wood ashes are not ashes. Wood ashes are really minerals. 95 to 90% of that powder that we call wood ashes are really minerals that the tree sucked up out of the ground. And the nature and amount and variety of the minerals in those ashes will depend on where the tree grew. The nutritional minerals do not occur in a uniform blank around the crust of the earth. They occur in veins like chocolate and chocolate ice cream. In some places there's none. In some places there's just a modest amount. In some places there's okay amounts, but in some places there's a lot. I guarantee you, wherever people live a long time, they have a lot in the soil. Well, they take these wood ashes and they throw them in the garden, and the trees suck them up. You burn the trees, you throw the wood ashes into the garden, and guess what? The peas, the beans, the squash, the tomatoes, the okra, the bell peppers, the sweet potato, the onions, suck up all these minerals. You eat them. That's how we got our mineral supplements for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Well, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, on Pearl Street, New York City, it all changed. In a heartbeat, it all changed. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, on Pearl Street in New York City, on the bluff overlooking the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, an event happened. It was in every newspaper in the world the next day because we had the telegraph. The story went out across the world, and the next day it was in every newspaper in the world. This fellow here, Thomas Edison, had pulled the switch on the first commercial electric generating plant. Within 10 years, every town, every city in the industrialized world converted from wood as the universal fuel to electricity. I don't care if you remember anything I've told you so far, but I want you to take home this next paragraph. Okay, this is what I want you to take home. When you fuel your home, with electricity, you fill your home with electricity, how many wood ashes are left over in your home every morning? 0! And what did you replace your source of nutritional mineral supplements with? Nothing! 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 Now, here's little Grandma Ruthie, 80-something years old, and she's starting to feel some aches and pains, and she sees an ad on TV for Boost and Ensure, maybe one-a-day vitamin. She said, Dr. Frank, I saw all this stuff about Ensure and Boost and one-a-day. Shouldn't I be supplementing my diet with some vitamins and minerals or something? Do not supplement! You know this! I want you to use every good German chemistry pharmaceuticals. Okay, beginning to get the picture here?
Yes.
Every doctor who said that should be put in jail for murder. Because they killed little Grandma Ruthie as sure as he shot her in the head. But she was asking, she's begging, shouldn't I be taking some vitamins? Oh no, just eat well. And you'll wind up like Steve Jobs. 1056. Are you beginning to get the picture here? He should have at least said, well, yeah, I really don't believe in it much, but can't hurt you. Go ahead and take a supplement if you want. Might do you some good, but they never do. They always say, don't do it, you'll overdose. So what was the overall result from that? Well, U.S. Senate Document 264 came out in 1936. U.S. Senate Document 264, and says countless human ills stem from the fact that impoverished soil or deficient soil of America no longer provides plant foods with the mineral elements essential for human nourishment and health. They knew that in 1936 it was published in a U.S. Senate Document 264, but they had hearings with the Agricultural Department and farmers and university professors in agriculture were having all these testimonies, and they put it all together in this document. It's not like they haven't known it. U.S. Senate Document 264, 1936. Well, how the hell did that happen? Well, not only did we convert to electricity, instead of wood, no wood ashes going in the garden anymore, but what about the bigger fields? Well, what were, prior to electricity, what were the most expensive and the most fertile farmlands? Bottomland, things like floodplains. Now, what would happen to these floodplains and bottomland that were in valleys along the sides of rivers? What would happen every year when it flooded? That water, that flood water would recede. What did it leave behind? Silt, which are minerals from mountains, hundreds or maybe even thousands of miles upstream. Now, the farmer pushed that silt off to the side before he planted? He plowed it back in. Every year he would re-inoculate the soil with those minerals. But people liked electricity. It was safe, it was inexpensive, it was predictable. It saved a lot of house fires. Boy, they loved it. They stand there all day. On, off. It was just quite a thing. Oh, just think about it. Electric stoves, electric refrigerators. You didn't have to wait for some guy in a wagon to bring a bunch of ice blocks to put in your house with straw around to keep it from melting. How many remember that piece? Some of us are old enough to remember that, right? And so politicians jumped in there and said, you vote for me, I'll electrify the Tennessee Valley. Create thousands of jobs. They got the TVA, created thousands of jobs, electrify the Tennessee Valley. You vote for me, we'll electrify the southwestern 7 states, including California and Arizona and Nevada, the Hoover Dam, create thousands of jobs. And they did. I mean, everybody was excited. I mean, everybody got an electric blender, an electric mixer, an electric stove, electric icebox. I mean, they had TVs and you didn't have to grind the control anymore. It was electric. I mean, it was wild when you think about it. Changed everything. But there was an unintended consequence. Flood control. No more flooding, no more silt to plow in every year. What did we get for that? We got the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression, because the soil was dead, no food, people were sick and depressed, couldn't work. Factories shut down. And all the industrialized world went into a funk because of electricity. I'm sure old Thomas Edison, when turnover is great, realized what his invention had done. Not because he knew that was going to happen, but here's a case where they should have sat down and said, okay, what are going to be the consequences of everything we do here? is going to be so globally encompassing, what do we expect we have to deal with? Okay, that's why we have fire inspectors in buildings now. You know, you make your whole building out of tissue paper insulation, and electric wires are running through tissue paper, you're bound to have a fire. That doesn't work. Okay, so you have to think ahead, what is your invention going to create? Our doctors have a misconception. When you have abundance, you don't have to worry about nutritional deficiency. I mean, if everybody has a loaf of bread, you don't have to worry about nutritional deficiencies. Everybody has a tomato every day, you don't have to worry about nutritional deficiencies. Well, that's not true. How many minerals are in this wheat field? Here, here, there, here, here, there, here, there. Just what, you know, the minerals are in veins that look like this. Well, in farming, we know that's true, and so we give every animal everything we know they need to maximize their production. Why would you have 100 cows you're feeding, and you just give her hay and some grain, give them hay and grain? If you do that, what's going to happen is, out of the 100 cows you're feeding every year, 30 of them will have miscarriages, they'll have premature births, and they'll have birth defects in 50 to 100 calves. They'll be out of business the next year, because they don't have insurance. So if we give them, for pennies a day, every nutrient we know they need, all 90 essential nutrients, to prevent all that, and each cow has a perfect calf, and they live to, and very efficiently, to either market weight or to reproductive age without the need for veterinary care, that's the ideal goal. We've done it. We've done it in animals because we don't have insurance. Why should a cow give a cup of milk when she has the capacity to give a gallon of milk for the same amount of feed? All you got to do is add the vitamins and minerals. I often wondered, I don't know how many watch Olympics and World Games and things like that, and it always fascinated me. We have runners like Jim Fix, who's 6'4". I mean, he was a darling in the medical field because he said, don't supplement, just exercise, keep your artery clean. I mean, this guy had more records around the world, and he dropped dead at 52. Didn't even make it to 62. Died 10 years earlier than the average athlete. I want you to appreciate, who was it, and still yet today, who is it that wins most of the long distance races like marathons? Some little Ethiopian that's 4'11", doesn't weigh 92 pounds. He always runs in like this. Not these big 6'7" striders, you know. They're dropping dead all along the way. Why did that little guy from Ethiopia always win the marathon? That really fascinated me as a pathologist. Well, here's why. I put this picture of Thomas Edison beside this picture here on your left. This is a satellite picture from 100 miles up. This is Southern California agricultural land. Pacific Ocean over here, Mexico down here, Arizona over here, Salton Sea, so you know exactly where this is at. This is a small salt lake, about 1/10 the size of the Great Salt Lake in Utah. But what I want you to see here is that nutritional minerals do not occur in a uniform blanket around the coast here. They occur in veins, like chocolate and chocolate ice cream. So soybeans and sweet potatoes grown here and here and here and there and here and here and there and there and there. Remember, this is like 200 square miles. Here and there and here and there and here and there. They're not going to all have the same amount and variety of minerals. Again, in the agricultural industry, we know we have to give them everything they need perfectly to make their genes, DNA, RNA, and telomeres happy to give maximum production, maximum longevity, maximum health. In humans, we just eat well because that's what doctors tell us to do. They train dietitians. Well, you want this percentage of carbohydrate and this percentage of proteins and fats. What does that do for vitamins and minerals? Nothing. That's why we're the most obese nation in the world. We're number one! And doesn't that make you feel warm and fuzzy?
No.
Okay, just about ready to get to the bottom line here. We have 4 slides left after this one. I think it's worth reminding you here as we go on to these next ones. They're important. The United States Department of Agriculture came out, this was 2012, and said 95% of Americans are minerally deficient. Going back 100 years to 1914, the minerals of our soil over the past 100 years are depleted by 85%. Okay, this was then documented in 264 way back in 1936. Our farm soils are depleted by minerals, and as a result, Our foods are literally starved of nutrition. Medicine cannot compensate for this deficiency. How many nutrients is in Prozac? How many nutrients is in Lipitor? How many nutrients are in Digitalis?
Zero.
Are you beginning to get the picture?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is the core of everything we do in longevity. This is a compost pile that's thousands and thousands of years old. There's 100 cubic miles of this stuff. Nobody else has access to this except longevity. We have this in perpetuity. For as long as the earth is alive, we have this. Nobody else has it. 100 cubic miles of it. These guys are standing on a road that is 3,000 foot elevation above sea level. And that 25-foot cap up here of limestone, and we know it's marine limestone because the animal fossils and the plant fossils are from the ocean. So we know this stuff's been under the ocean for thousands and thousands of years. It's totally pollution-free. Has 78 minerals in it, including all 60 essential minerals in the proper ratios. Totally organic. Absolutely no pollution in it because it's been under the ocean for thousands of years, so it's been protected. Plus it has all 9 rare earths, including the 6 that have been studied for doubling lifespans. Every year, including this one, June 27th, we're going to give a tour. We take about 10 busloads out there, 50 people in a bus. And you see this limestone cap again. You see this stuff here, this compost. This is some of the limestone we've chopped off the top. We can make a pyramid with that stuff, right? And these are some of our associates and distributors who really appreciate this. To go out there, and when you go out there, you know there's a God. When you see the stuff, you know God exists. A couple of questions here. When do you put oil in your car? Before the engine burns up or after the engine burns up? That's kind of a giggle question. I'm going to ask you to do, when you have a young couple who's getting engaged, or maybe they're kind of running together real hot and you know something's going to happen, right? Or they're getting engaged or they're getting married, instead of giving them $200 to start a household, instead of giving them a set of monogrammed towels, instead of giving them a set of linens to start their house, give them the 90 essential nutrients for both he and her, he and she, right? For 3 months or 6 months or a year, whatever you can afford, and then educate them and say, look, I can't do this forever, but I'm doing this because we know how to prevent every birth defect you can name in 10 times that many you don't know about. Why would you want to have a special needs child when you can prevent it? Why would you want to have a baby born with Down syndrome, cleft palate, spina bifida, cerebral palsy, heart defects, muscular dystrophy, cystic fibrosis, missing limbs, too many fingers, all that kind of stuff? Why would you want that to happen when it's totally unnecessary? We've eliminated all those birth defects in animals, including behavioral things, transgenders, gay men, lesbian women, asexual people, like crazy Aunt Ruthie who died a spinster at 92, never went on a date, crazy Uncle Frank who never went on a date. You loved him to kind of babysit your house when you went on vacation. These sort of behavioral problems are preventable. Now, you can't fix them. You can't pray them back into the bottle. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. But they're preventable. It's preventable. All birth defects are preventable. Many of them are reversible after the baby's born, but including things that I call inborn errors of metabolism, like lactose intolerance. We can make up the difference with enzymes, but it's preventable. Sickle cell anemia is an inborn error of metabolism. It's not genetic in blacks. It occurs in white people too, but you can't have a black gene in white people, so they call it thalassemia in white people. Doesn't that sound funny to you? Thalassemia in white people is sickle cell anemia in black people. Same disease, but you can't call it that because you can't have a black gene in white folk, you can't have a white gene in black folk. It doesn't fit the theory, right? And that's what I was running into when I was doing all those autopsies and saying, I'm pulling my hair out, saying everything they're saying is not true. There's a problem here. I didn't have the name epigenetics at that point, but I knew something, and that's why my book's in the Smithsonian Institute. Because I was pointing out these problems in 1971 in that 1,200-page book. Everybody kind of laughed at me at that time, but as the years went by, they said, oh my God, Wallach was right. Okay? So, you can prevent all this stuff, especially if you have other children. What happens when a couple has a special needs child and they have 3 normal kids before that? Where's all the energy and the money and time go? The special needs child. And that causes all kinds of friction with the kids and problems. I mean, they could get in real trouble. They do drugs, they commit suicide, they do all kinds of weird stuff because you're spending so much attention on the special needs child. Now you gotta love those special needs kids. Once you have one, you don't need to have one. It's not genetic. It doesn't just happen. And it is preventable. Okay? To me, that's the most important thing. Because I became a physician so I could treat kids with cystic fibrosis and muscular dystrophy. And so it just got to be a bigger project than I'd imagined. We have 800 projects in longevity. We have 800 different programs. We do with over 900 different diseases. We have a program for each one of them. How to prevent them, how to reverse them, how to manage them better than is currently being managed. My favorite programs are the ones that give you all 90 essential nutrients. We have about 25 of them. My favorite of the favorites is the Healthy Start Pack. We have 2 versions. We have the original, and then we have the 2.0, which is a kind of update. Switched out a couple of ingredients because some people were kind of maybe allergic to shellfish and things like that, which is in this one, but they're not in 2.0 kind of thing. So because we knew that that sort of thing was there, we made 2 versions of it. This contains 245 nutrients. It gives you all perfect nutrition of 90 essential nutrients appropriate for 100 pounds of human flesh for a month. So you give this to a 100-pound person, this is good for a month. Divide it in half, half goes breakfast and dinner. If it's a 50-pound kid or a 50-pound Spanish midget who's 40 years old, in each case this will last 2 months because nothing else matters except the body weight. Okay? Then, if this is a 200-pound person, you have to give him 2 of these. 1 full dose of everything at breakfast, 1 full dose at dinner. That 400-pound pastor, he had to take 4 of those a day, plus the ASAP. Drops you put under the tongue, it speeds up the metabolism, and he was losing 4 pounds a day. He never had to have any surgery because all his skin tightened up as he lost the weight. Huh? And of course, we have Miss Michigan here, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, how long have you been on the product here?
I've been on them for about almost 4 years.
All right.
And I haven't, since I've been on the product, I haven't.
Why don't you stand up?
Hello,
Isn't
everybody.
she beautiful? Miss Michigan?
Before I got on the product, I suffered very badly from sinus issues. Every day I was waking up, I had the whole drainage and sneezing and the whole itching in the ear thing. Every year I had colds. Since I've been on the product, about 2.5 weeks, I haven't had 1 sniffle, I haven't had 1 cold, so almost 4 years, no colds, no sniffles, no sinus issues. I've been perfect. Thank you, Dr.
And how old are you? How old are you now?
Thank you, Dr. Wallach.
She's 30 years younger than she is.
Can I say something? I'm 29 and get away with it? I'm lying, but.
Okay, so we have 25 prepared programs, so you don't have to think about much. You just do what it says to do. They're all based on the Healthy Start Pack, which I just showed you. You don't have to take the Healthy Start Pack and the program. But this is the core. You can look, you can see that the Healthy Start Pack is the core of each one of these things. What would you use the Healthy Blood Sugar Pack for? Type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, you just reduce your medications. Your doctors have taught you to do is your blood sugar drops, you will. Type 1 diabetics, you'll never be able to totally get off of insulin. You'll be able to reduce it by 90%. You'll be able to cut your times a day. You need to check your blood sugar from maybe 6 or 8 times a day to maybe once or twice. Complications go away, and you'll live 30, 50 years longer. Kind of amazing, no complication. Type 2 diabetes, usually within 2 weeks to 2 months, you're an ex-diabetic. How long do you have to stay on the 90 essential nutrients? For life. Because next week, next year, 5 years from now, 50 years from now, those minerals will still not be in the soil. So you'll just have to take it forever, right? For life, it's like oxygen and water. Okay, what would you use the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack for? Well, osteopenia, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, degenerative arthritis, bone-to-bone arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. You got to throw in either a group of herbs that kill bugs or the minocycline, the tetracycline antibiotic that kills the minocycline, or kills the mycoplasma, the bug that contributes to the cause of rheumatoid arthritis. And then there's periodontal disease. Periodontal disease is osteoporosis of the face. Why do you think little old people look like little old people? Because they lose the bone in their face, they get receding gums, they get loose teeth, and dentists will put implants in, they'll give them dentures. You get them on the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, their teeth tighten up like you put cement around a fence post, the gums come back up because the bones come back. And they look, and this is why these ladies look 25, 30 years younger than they are, Because they haven't had osteoporosis of the face. Begin to make sense?
Yeah.
Little old people, both men and women, look older as they lose the bone in their face. People forget. You don't get osteoporosis and osteopenia just in your legs and your hips and your ribs and your vertebrae. It's everywhere, including your skull and your jaw.
Wow.
Doctors never talk about that. They should be put in jail. It's like never telling you to lubricate the bearings in your front wheels. They just keep burning up. I don't know why that is. And then, of course, there's sarcoidosis. There is fibromyalgia. There's lupus. Same thing, healthy bone and joint pack and a gluten-free diet. Bone spurs, kidney stones. The one that I love is when you have kidney stones, the first thing that a medical doctor will tell you is, no calcium, got to stop calcium supplements, no dairy. Well, you should be put in jail for that because when you have kidney stones, you have raging osteoporosis. All those kidney stones came from your bones, not from your diet. And your parathyroid glands will enlarge. Oh, you got to take your parathyroid glands out. No, they're just working like you're working a muscle, carrying buckets of milk. Oh, let's cut your arms off because you're getting big because you're carrying buckets of milk. They should be put in jail for that. They disable you when they take your parathyroid glands out. All you have to do is take the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. Your blood calcium, which should be between 8.5 and 10.5 milligrams per deciliter. Like if it's 25, that freaks doctors out. Oh, you got to stop calcium. You get in the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, within weeks it comes down to 8. Because all that calcium was pulled out of your bones by your parathyroids overworking. Why is it that they don't teach physiology in medical schools? They spend all their time teaching them how to send you a bill. First thing you walk in the door, they didn't even ask your name. They say, how are you going to pay? Is that right? Okay, healthy digestion pack. Belching, burping, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, farting, you know, all that stuff. Reflux. There is no such thing as acid reflux. How many have heard of acid reflux? Lies! That's one of the failed medical theories. There is no such thing as acid reflux. When you have reflux, it's lack of acid reflux. Your stomach environment should be a pH of 1.2, 1.5, 1 being the most acid, 14 being the most alkaline, 7 being neutral. Your stomach environment should be 1.2 to 1.5. Very, 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 very acid. Now, it gets up above 3 or 4, moving towards neutral 7, yeast and bacteria begin to grow in there. And when you eat carbohydrates and sugar, they begin to ferment just like they're making beer or wine in your stomach. Lots of gas, heartburn, reflux. You get your stomach acid down to 1.2 again, reflux stops immediately. So, why wouldn't I want to just take antacids? Well, you take antacids, you take proton pump inhibitors and stop stomach acid production. Within the next 5 years, you're going to have 20 new diseases you didn't have because you won't be able to absorb any nutrients. You need an acid environment to digest proteins down into amino acids because your pepsin won't work without acid. You won't be able to absorb vitamin B12. You won't be able to absorb minerals without an acid environment in your stomach. Why do people have to go every month to get a B12 shot by their doctor? Because their doctor said, no salt. And you can't make stomach acid without salt. Salt is the raw material to make stomach acid, remember? And so you go in every month to get a B12 injection because your intrinsic factor won't work without an acid environment in your stomach. All these are doctor-caused diseases. Remember, only dead doctors don't lie. Healthy brain and heart pack. Healthy brain and heart pack. We're talking about, oh, let's say here, there's 5 different dementias. Doctors always bill for Alzheimer's disease because they get paid the most for Alzheimer's disease. They never bill for the other 4, even if you guys, they know you got them. They always bill for the one they're going to get paid the most for, Alzheimer's disease. There's vascular dementia where you have plugged arteries in the brain. There's Korsakoff syndrome, which is a deficiency of a single vitamin. There's Wernicke-Korsakoff, which is a deficiency of that vitamin plus MS mixed in with it. There's a B12 deficiency dementia, and then there's the Alzheimer's disease, which is a cholesterol deficiency. And then, of course, there's Huntington's disease, Parkinson's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, and MS. All those are the brain diseases. And then there's congestive heart failure, cardiomyopathy, heart disease, coronary artery disease, and thrombotic stroke and thrombotic coronary artery disease. Okay? And so you take this, and I would throw in also the ultimate daily tablets and to help support healthy blood flow through obstructed arteries. I would also use this for kidney failure. Also over here, I throw in the aromatherapy oil from Ancient Legacy. I put in peppermint oil. Char, remember 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yep.
Pastor Hunter,
Yep.
okay, from the oldest Black Baptist church in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And we were talking to him for his diabetes and his joint problems. He played basketball in university, big 6'5" guy, very slim. His wife was sitting next to me and Char was sitting across from me. His wife is going, bleh, I mean, every 10 seconds she's belching and burping. Now, she's a pastor's wife, so I can't be rude to her. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to deal with his diabetes and his arthritis, and she's sitting there burping and belching in my ear. And so I said, ma'am, how long have you been uncomfortable like this? I'm biting my lips so I don't say anything else. And she goes, bleh. And he said, oh, she's been like that ever since I've known her. Really, it must have been great on a date. So I said, have you ever tried peppermint oil? Because I have to have some in my pocket, which I have. Yeah, I even have it right now. I have peppermint oil. Okay? And she goes, She's fearing for her life. He says, oh, the doctor told her there's too much acid in peppermint. You know, don't take peppermint. Yeah. And it smell great, peppermint? Yeah. And so I went, in the lobby of the hotel, 1 o'clock in the morning, they got these machines with the hot water, the coffee, and the decaf. So I drew a cup of hot water, put 4 drops of the peppermint oil in there, and I said, just smell it, don't drink it, just smell it. I'm looking at him with one eye, talking to him about his diabetes and arthritis. I'm looking at her with the other eye, a chameleon, right? And she's going, and you can tell she's smelling it, and she's already starting to burp and belch less. She couldn't resist anymore, she took a sip. And I'm going to show you what happened. And as God is my witness, Char is my witness, she was there. She gets up, she goes, I'm cured! I'm cured! I'm cured! I'm cured! I'm cured! In less than 30 seconds. Is it true? Char? Char? Is that true?
She stopped.
Immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah. Okay? In just like 10 seconds. And so we've been using this on people with acid reflux ever since. We have an enzyme with stomach acid in it, ultimate enzymes. Oh my gosh. You want to get rid of reflux, aka acid reflux? It really should be called lack of acid reflux. And once you know what it is, nobody should ever go to a gastroenterologist again and have an endoscopic instrument put down and kill you, because they can't clean them. We read that in the newspaper, they can't clean the damn things, they kill people right, left, and center. Oh, let's all have that done. Okay, got one more slide, and then you guys can give. Okay, you can do your drawing. Let me do one more slide here, and then after they do the drawing, I'll answer questions for 30 minutes. Then we got to run. Our travels today are not yet over. Remember, we have programs for over 900 different diseases. We have programs for over 900 different diseases, including prevention and reversal. But 85% of what you're going to run into will be taken care of by these 4 major programs. It doesn't matter. You cannot hurt anybody. It's not like a pharmaceutical. You give the wrong pharmaceutical to somebody, you hurt them. You give 2 pharmaceuticals together, polypharmacy, you can kill them. Okay? In this case, you can't hurt them. I get people who, all they do is they tell us that they have arthritis in their knee, and we give them the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, and they come back a month later and say, well, my arthritis is gone, but I'm just really amazed that I was blind with macular degeneration, that went away too. We have people who have been legally blind for 6, 8, 10 years, and in 90 days they read 20 without glasses. We do this thousands of times a month. Once we learned what was going on, but they're telling us this sort of stuff. What? And one doctor called me a liar when I said that. I made a little wager with him. Make a long story short. Yep, doctor. Yep. And he brought me 27 charts the next day. All of these people were legally blind for 6, 8, 10 years with macular degeneration. And he said he would take all 27 and pay for the supplements. But if I failed, he was going to destroy me. I said, okay, let's go for it. He was kind of shocked that I was that casual about it. And so he was going to pay for all the supplements. I wrote down exactly what he had to do, and I had to give him credit. He did it, as I said. In 90 days, he re-examined them all. All 27 could read 20/20 after 90 days. Only 2 required glasses. 25 didn't even require glasses. So as his apology, I thought he was going to take me out to dinner and stand up at the restaurant and apologize to the people in the restaurant. But instead, he did something better. He made me a CD called Seeing is Believing, and told the story.
Yeah.
That's where that CD, Seeing is Believing, came from. And every year, this is about 12 years ago, and he called me a liar in front of 300 people. And so he was a little pressurized too, right? But I could have sued him right away. But anyway, and so better than that, he made the CD for me. Every year I sell millions of them for $3 a piece. That's a pretty good apology, isn't it? Do the math, okay. So, hard tissue stuff, bones, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, that kind of stuff. Healthy bone and joint pack. Soft tissue, heart, brain, liver, kidneys, lungs, muscles even. Soft tissue, healthy brain and heart pack. What would you do for blood sugar problems? Diabetes type 2, diabetes type 1, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, narcolepsy, which we can call reactive hypoglycemia. A lot of times, it'll cause things like depression, manic depression, bipolar disease, that kind of stuff. ADD, ADHD, it'll contribute to autism. Healthy blood sugar pack. Healthy digestion pack, okay, when you have digestive problems. This is not difficult. When we're talking about reflux, okay, we're talking about constipation, diarrhea, belching, burping, bloating, farting, heartburn. We're talking about irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease. We're talking about colitis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. If you get on a gluten-free diet, you get on the healthy digestion pack, you don't have to have 3 feet of your intestine removed for Crohn's disease. We do this thousands of times a year. Crohn's disease, we get rid of it. It's not an autoimmune disease. It's a gluten intolerance. You get them on a gluten-free diet, you give them the support for the digestive system, it all goes away. Char, you seen that happen? Judy, you seen that happen?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No problems.
Andrea? You've seen miracles in people you're working with, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, I have to tell you, I learned about the network marketing. This will only be about 2 minutes. I learned about the network marketing thing when I first graduated school in 1978, naturopathic medical school. In Portland, Oregon, naturopathic doctors way back then, 36 years ago, were primary care physicians. And so I was a primary care physician, and I started lecturing up and down Highway 5, and I'd get 300 new patients a week. I couldn't handle them in my office. So I'm a brand new doctor, and I just didn't have everything, even though I bought a practice, existing practice, I didn't have all the patients. I'm getting 300 new patients a week for my lectures. And so I was giving a free lecture every Tuesday night for 1 hour. Have these 300 people, sometimes be 500 people come to my lectures, because I was going to tell them why I was different, what I was doing differently, what I expected from them from the nutritional standpoint, what to do with their diets. And so I realized, and it dawned on me that suddenly now I'm doing 400 hours worth of work in 1 hour. Instead of having to spend an hour with each patient training them, I'm training 400 of them in 1 hour. I'm doing 400 hours worth of work in 1 hour. So if I can train a whole bunch of people to do the same thing, I'll be able to do thousands of people per hour, thousands of hours worth. And so now, every month I pay 250,000 PAs, physicians assistants, to do what I just showed you what to do here. On a bad day, through their eyes, I see about 2 million patients. On a good day, I see about 5 million patients through their eyes. Char sees about 500,000 herself. I have one lady who sees 900,000 patients every day through her system of PAs and through all computers and all that kind of stuff. That's where these books come from. I mean, I get so much data that we've got 3 more new books coming out here in the next couple of months. Okay? To give you the information we accumulated. So, we're looking for help. We're growing. We're seeing 10,000 new patients a month now. It's like going crazy. We're publicly traded. We give stock options. We give car bonuses up to $1,000 a month.
Yep.
You get a pretty nice Porsche for that. Mercedes, whatever you want, right? And this is a willable asset. If you work for a company for 30 years, can you will your job to your kid? Can you sell your job when you retire to somebody? No. But you spend a couple hours a week doing your Young Judy program and helping other people, I will pay you an obscene amount of money.
Yep.
You don't need to go to school for 1 minute. We will train you for nothing. How's that? You only have to pay wholesale for all the products. How's that?
Yay.
You get an auto ship, you don't even have to pay shipping. You save another 8%. I'll pay the shipping if you get an auto ship, okay? Okay? Why don't you guys come on up here, do your thing, and then I'll answer questions. Thank you very much. I'll be back in a minute.
Has everyone got a ticket, blue ticket? We're going to draw for some 3 items here. Give out some gifts. So if you don't have a blue ticket, let's get a blue ticket.
That helps.
No, I don't know. Anybody get a ticket?
Attention, please, for a moment.
You're going to win something 3 here.
Well, that's why that, yeah.
Okay, attention for a moment.
326065.
That's the wrong number.
326065.
Is that for a driver?
I'm gonna say.
I think we're gonna get like the Callaway driver.
By Dr. Wallach, wanted, dead or alive, FDA, wanted, dead or alive, Big Pharma, wanted, dead or alive, medical doctor.
This is his newest.
Newest CD.
Public enemy number 1.
Yeah.
326077. 326077.
You know what? The tag is closed, but it's either 17 or 17. Here's the other one.
Okay.
Nobody else. You see better if you have some of those minerals.
Right.
326111. Okay. The next one is Hell's Kitchen.
I need that since there's a lot of germs in the kitchen.
Not going to, well. 326126. 326126.
Stir 'em up.
Let's Play Doctor Book by Dr. Wallach. Okay, come on. All right. 326120.
Mix them up again.
This is the DVD, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. DVD. Watch this. Share it with your friends. Right. 326119. 326119. Anybody? Okay, thank you.
Don't get up.
Another DVD from Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Three two six 058.
Bingo.
Getting close. Getting close.
DVD by Dr. Glidden. What supplements to take and why? Very good. 326053.
Getting close.
326053.
Pretty soon I'll be the only one left.
DVD again. What supplements to take and why? And 326048. 326048. Okay. A book version of Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Dr. Wallach. 326061. Wow. One more to go. Let's play herbal doctor. How to use herbs effectively. 326117. 326117. Oh, good. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. So, shall we open it up for questions for Dr. Wallach?
Yeah, we'll do it for about 30 minutes.
Okay.
And so what I want you to do, pay attention, because if somebody has a question about arthritis in the right knee, it'll work on their left shoulder too. So you kind of want to listen from that angle, because I'm not going to get to everybody here in 30 minutes. I'm going to give you two numbers. Okay, whoever watching here, let me ask you this question. How many of you are not already using Young Dude Are not already using Young Dude Oh, good. So whoever got you here tonight, make sure you sign up with them, and they'll be your kind of mentor and walk you through this. How do you advertise, Pete?
Newspaper, email,
Radio. Okay. How many of you came from newspaper or radio? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. You want to be sure to see Pete and his crew. Let them sign you up, and they'll get you into the system. They will mentor you. They don't charge you anything. They'll mentor you to make sure you walk through this properly, and you get all the discounts and everything appropriate for you. Okay?
phone call.
Phone call. Okay, good. Okay, here we go. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Yes, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Raise this a little bit. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I'm totally sold. I can't go to a doctor to get a total examination to find out what's going on in my body, and I would assume you don't take any more patients. How do I get a proper diagnosis and also to find out if I'm allergic to gluten?
Okay, very simple. Are you wearing makeup right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know you're severely minerally deficient from here. You know how I know that, Shar? Why do I know she's minerally deficient?
White hair, no copper.
Okay, you have copper deficiency. And somebody with,
Doesn't age enter into that?
nope, age has nothing to do with it.
Nope.
Age has nothing to do with white hair. Also, when you have white hair, and, okay, shh. You have white hair, or you have a copper deficiency, you also are going to also are always going to have spider veins, varicose veins. Yes, you were doing this.
So a little.
It doesn't matter. It's like being pregnant. Either you is, you ate a little, you worked a little, okay. And so you're going to have varicose veins and hemorrhoids, which are varicose veins in a funny place, right? And then you'll also get aneurysms. You get a breakdown of the elastic fibers and walls of your arteries and veins. Yeah, you can die suddenly from an aneurysm up here, aneurysm down here.
I'm there.
You already have an aneurysm, or you had
And
one?
they're worried about in here.
Okay, had
But
one.
now, see, I'm afraid to go to the doctors. I need to
I know
get
that.
care.
I know. Now, also, gluten intolerance causes common things. Did you have asthma as a kid?
Never.
Do you have bronchitis?
No.
Do you have children?
No.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
No.
You're an only child.
Mhm.
Okay. Does your mother have any respiratory problems?
I have no idea. We never could afford to go to doctors back in the
Well, you can tell
States.
she couldn't breathe or not.
Well, no, but she lasted a good long time. I don't think she had any of those problems.
Okay. Have you had any bowel problems? Constipation, diarrhea,
No,
irritable bowel syndrome? You have your appendix out?
yes.
You have gluten
Scared me
intolerance.
then.
You have appendicitis caused by gluten intolerance. So you have gluten intolerance. So absolutely no wheat, barley, rye, or oats.
Oh, yeah. that works.
No wheat, barley, rye, or oats.
And which one of your books?
I'm gonna tell you all this in a second. Give me a second. I'm educating 100 people here.
Okay.
See, you're the light that's getting educational. If this is worth the 5 minutes this is gonna take. The thing that gives away gluten intolerance without test, because the test is a biopsy of your intestine. You don't want that. There's risk involved. But if you have celiac disease, you have appendicitis, diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, colitis, ulcerative Crohn's disease, you have eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, rosacea, if you have a history of 6, 8, 10, 12 diseases, they're all nutritional deficiency. Yeah, well, you have a bunch of them
Oh, okay.
because you already told me you have aneurysm, you have things like, yeah, you have a carotid artery problem, right? You already have varicose veins, you have hemorrhoids, right? Well, you told me yes right here. Even a little bit, doesn't matter if it's a little or a big one, internal, external, doesn't matter. This is all reversible by supplementing properly. You take the healthy brain and heart pack and it all goes away. And within months, your hair color will be coming back and always comes back here. And I've actually had people say, I like my gray hair. Well, I'll go ahead and die. Because you want the hair color to come back, which means you're repairing all those vascular problems. Okay, now, the book is going to give you what you want to know, what you asked her, what do I do for a diagnosis? I don't want to go to a doctor. Number one, you can actually call a nurse practitioner and talk to them as opposed to a doctor. I would do that. But what you want to do is get a hold of that book, Let's Play Doctor, and look in, I believe it's chapter 7, it's a home laboratory chapter. It'll tell you how to go to your pharmacy without a prescription, get all the same test strips your doctor will use in his office for a $2,000 physical. You get the same test strips for blood tests. Why would you want on your permanent record that you have pre-diabetes or metabolic syndrome or type 2 diabetes? You're not going to get promotions, your insurance goes up, and everybody's going to look at you a little bit funny because you already have this genetic disease. Not genetic, but they think it's genetic disease, right? When you do that yourself, you don't need to go to a doctor for a diagnosis of diabetes. You stick yourself in the finger, you run the test against the rainbow in the bottom, get one of those little machines to read it, and it'll tell you if your blood sugar is above 100 or not. You can do your own 6-hour blood glucose tolerance test to see if you have reactive hypoglycemia or narcolepsy. Okay? If you have pain in your knee, the odds are you have arthritis. You don't need to have a doctor say, oh, you have arthritis. It doesn't matter if it's in your thumb. It doesn't matter if it's in your wrist, your elbow, your neck. Okay? The one I love are things like, how many of you heard of AFib, atrial fibrillation?
Yes.
Atrial fibrillation is what's called a peripheral neuropathy. It's not a heart disease at all. Atrial fibrillation, where you get palpitations of your heart, you might even get tachycardia, rapid heart rate. The part where it happens in your ventricle, you get ventricular tachycardia. It's not a heart problem. And doctors want to put in pacemakers and they'll put in defibrillators. It's not going to work because it's not a heart problem, it's a back problem. What happens is, when you get degenerative disc disease, the discs get thicker, the vertebrae get closer together, and they smash the roots of the spinal nerves coming out from between thoracic vertebrae 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those spinal nerves control the rate and rhythm of your heart. They're getting pinched because the vertebrae are getting closer and closer together. The doctor says, oh, you got AFib, man. I got to give you all these blood thinners because you're going to get a blood clot. No, if you get a blood clot, it's because you have omega-3 essential fatty acid deficiency. Okay? And so, what you want to do is avoid the next step, of course, which is ablation. You want to kill portions of your heart to see if they can find the places running them up so they can slow down your heart. That's not going to work because it's not a heart problem, it's a back problem. Next, they do what's called a retroversion, where they electrocute you to death and hope to reboot your heart rhythm. Well, that's not going to work because it's not a heart problem, it's a back problem. The next thing on the list is heart transplant. Altogether, you're going to get $500,000 for heart procedures. That's not a heart problem, it's a back problem. Same thing with irritable bladder syndrome, where you get incontinent, you pee on yourself, you get urgency, you can't empty your bladder. I got many women in particular that call me all the time saying, I've had UTIs, urinary tract infections for 25 years. I've been on antibiotics every day for 25 years. I said, well, first thing we need to do is fire your doctor. He's either very stupid and should have his license taken away from him, or he's a criminal and he's milking you like an ATM machine, one or the other or both. Okay? Because you have a lower back problem, don't you? Well, yeah, how'd you know that?
I've had spinal surgery. I was paralyzed from the knees down, And they did correct the surgery, but the surgery.
Well, of course they did. But they didn't need to do surgery. You lucked out and survived.
Well, my legs didn't work.
I know, but you're not listening to me.
Okay.
That's called a peripheral neuropathy. What was happening was you had spinal stenosis or you had something of that nature which was squeezing either the spinal cord and or the spinal nerve in your lumbar area, which caused your legs to be paralyzed. What they did was they chopped certain amounts of bone out to take the pressure off the nerves, whether it's neck or the lumbar area. Yeah, and so now your legs work. That's not a miracle. That's just kind of like rotor rooting the roots out of a sewer when the plug, they're plugged with tree roots and you're flooding your bathtub. Okay? And so it's just a mechanical treatment. They really didn't solve the problem. Okay? Because the problem is really you have osteoporosis. You had that kind of problem going on, peripheral neuropathy. Okay? Now, another one I love is when women wake up at night 6 times to go to the bathroom, take a pee. Now, you have that problem? Well, I guarantee it's not a prostate problem. But most doctors, the first thing, oh, you got somebody they're waking up at night, take a pee, it's prostate. Well, I'm a girl. Oh, let me think about that. They don't even think about a peripheral neuropathy squeezing the nerves to control the bladder. Okay, so you still have some problems because you still have that problem, right? You still have back problems. So, you're a perfect candidate for the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. What do you weigh?
Well, probably about 180 now.
Okay, so you need 2 Healthy Bone and Joint Packs per month. Full dose of everything twice a day. Then immediately, I want you to take, in each case, you get a jar of what we call CM cream, which is an analgesic, a pain reliever, an anti-inflammatory cream. I want you to get from our Ancient Legacy division what we call trauma oil. Put 6 drops of the trauma oil in a teaspoon of that CM cream. Put that on your lumbar area, particularly where you had the surgery, okay? Put it on your neck, okay, but put it on your lumbar area also, right down the middle, an inch on either side. Oftentimes that'll give you enough symptomatic relief that you won't be waking up in the middle of the night because it'll relieve the inflammation around the roots of those nerves. I take it 4 to 6 months, and I can legally say to support and promote maintenance repair of cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, discs between the vertebrae, bone makes bone itself, and it'll permanently go away. Okay? We avoid surgery millions of times a year because you see you still have a lot of the problems, even though your legs are working, which is very, very good, but there's also risk of danger. I want you to think about, I want you to think about Joan Rivers. Her voice was changing, and so she went into a storefront clinic in California. A storefront clinic was put under general anesthesia. Oh, they forgot to turn on the oxygen. She was brain dead, and she died at age 81. Okay? No smoking.
No, leave that up.
Okay, good. Okay, so you get the idea. Call me every 2 weeks.
Thank you.
I'll give you a number in a minute. Yes, ma'am. Wait a minute. No, this is wrong here. Okay, well, rheumatoid arthritis, we want to take the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, 1 per 100 pounds of body weight. So if we weigh 3, then take 1 for each 100 pounds of body weight. That'll be 15 to 20 glucogel a day, 5 at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and bedtime, right? What? Now, Charmaine, what do you weigh? Stand up, I can't hear you. What do you weigh? Okay, so how many glucogel do you take a day?
12.
You're taking 3 and she's taking 12? She weighs 110 pounds?
But I just tell you, my doctor, my rheumatologist, is so
Amazed?
amazed that she's now a distributor.
Yay! You see, she's smarter than the average bigger, isn't she? I love it. Now we gotta work on your weight, right? So what I would do is throw in what, Char? ASAP. And get 2 bottles of ASAP. Put a dropper full under your tongue 30 minutes before your meal, and a second dropper full under your tongue 15 minutes before each meal. Let it absorb through your oral tissues. Don't swallow. It won't hurt you if you swallow it, but you won't get the best result. And within a couple of days, you'll start losing a half a pound to 2 pounds a day, maybe even 4 pounds a day. You've lost 100 and what? 111. Is that on their products?
Yes.
Let's give her a hand, folks. I'm very proud of you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And so, yeah, what you want to do, there's 2 ways you can do it, and I like, there's actually 3 ways.
I need to know that other thing.
Yeah, it's called, well, what I like what we call Killer Body. The guy his size. Is him? That has rheumatoid arthritis?
No.
Oh, you. Okay, well, you'd need 12 of the Killer Biotics a day, 4 breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There'll be 3 bottles a month of the Killer Biotics, a blend of 8 herbs. that support your immune system, plus 2 of them actually have antimicrobial properties and kill bugs. Bacteria, including mycoplasma, right? And then, of course, there's minocycline, which is a tetracycline category antibiotic, which will kill the bug also. Some people like to do both. They like to do the minocycline and the killer bug. So those are your choices, right? And I am licensed in California. I really should see patients like yourself when write your prescription. But you can go to some nurse practitioner who writes you a prescription for minocycline, because it's actually in the Merck manual, okay, to take minocycline for mycoplasma infection.
Hello,
Yeah,
hello.
you already.
I've been trying to get you to attention from the beginning. I've been trying to talk to you for a lot of years. But
Okay, go ahead.
I want to sit down.
Yeah,
I even got your book.
You got
See, I had to go see my book. It's all red. See?
Yeah, give me a question.
Okay, so I was an American Longevity.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I was taking the orange 90 Essentials. Started getting kidney stones. Doctor's taking me off all that, because you can't have all the orange and all that. I have kidney stones now every 2 weeks. I just had a 5 millimeter come out this morning, and with a whole bunch behind it, and just killing me.
Are you ready to stop?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, are you wearing makeup?
No.
Are your cheeks always pink like that?
Maybe I was a little embarrassed. Maybe that's what I could have. But I'm out the sun.
Are you his wife?
Yeah, yeah.
Are his cheeks always kind of pink?
Yeah, he's got dark complexion anyway, but he's been out in the sun.
That's not what I'm asking you. Are his cheeks always kind of pink?
Yeah.
Okay, he's got rosacea.
Right.
Okay, I can see it from here. You got rosacea. This means you have gluten intolerance. You must be gluten-free, because if you have a gluten intolerance, you're only absorbing 10 to 15% of what you take in. That's why you're having a problem. You must be gluten-free, like he's got to be gluten-free. The dog, the cat, the bird, and the fish, because most dog foods and cat foods and bird food and fish food, especially the dry foods, have grains in them, which are gluten. Everybody in the house, including the dog and the cat and the bird and the fish, spouse, mother-in-law, everybody's got to be gluten-free. Otherwise, you're not gluten-free. What do you do for a living? Don't tell me you work in Panera Bread.
I do door-to-door sales.
You do what?
Door-to-door sales. I'm out walking.
What do you sell?
Construction stuff.
Okay, so you're not working with bread and dough and all that kind of stuff.
But I
What do
worked
you do
out
for a
here in
living?
India. That's how I learned about it.
What do you do for a living?
Oh, I do a lot of paperwork and background.
Okay, paperwork, okay. So you gotta get the gluten out of the house, okay?
So that's been a problem all along.
That's been a problem all
Even
along.
with the 90 Essentials, I'm still.
Well, it doesn't matter if you're not absorbing it, does it?
Yeah.
Okay, so then, ladies, ladies. Okay. Then I want you to take, what do you weigh, about 220, something like that?
235, 240.
Okay, so I want you to take 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month. Okay, I want you to take an extra bottle of Osteo, so you take 3 ounces a day of the Osteo, ounce of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then I want you to get 2 large bottles of glucogel, so you can take 15 of those a day, 5 at breakfast, 5 at lunch, 5 at dinner. Okay, but you gotta get drop dead gluten-free. Everything you have in the house now, don't just say, well, we'll use it up. Give it to a church, get a tax deduction, get it out tonight, bag it up tonight. Every grocery store has a gluten-free aisle. We have gluten-free meals. It's in our Go Foods division, which have a 25-year shelf life. And so I would be getting some of those things so you have them around in case there's a breakdown in the grid or
All pasta, all that stuff.
anything made from wheat, barley, rye, and oats. There is no such thing as gluten-free oats. The gluten in oatmeal is called gliadin, but it's still no gluten by any other name. It's still gluten. You can't have oats, wheat, barley, rye. That means beer, scotch, bourbon,
I don't drink.
rye, whiskey. Okay, milkshakes are okay, but malted milks are not. Where do they make malted milks from? Malted rye.
I haven't been drinking milk.
It doesn't matter. I'm educating a whole room full of people. I don't care if you don't breathe. I'm educating a room full of people. Okay? And so I'm not answering your question. I'm answering your question for all of them. Okay, so cool your jets. Okay. So if you're not doing something that I'm saying be worried about, then you don't have to worry about it because you're already not doing it, right? So now this is for life. This is not until you just feel good. All of this is for the rest of your life. Now, do you have any brothers and sisters? You got to tell them because they're gluten intolerant too. And the girls, your sisters, and your girl cousins from your mama's side are all passing this on to their kids. And so you have to warn them. You got to have a family meeting, whether it's on the phone, a telephone conference with everybody, so you only have to do it once. If you do not do this, I would get them all a present for their birthdays or Christmas. It's called serial killers, tells you all the hidden places you find gluten. How do you think Cracker Barrel and Denny's holds their meatloaf and meatballs together? Wheat flour. Okay, how do they thicken gravy? Wheat flour. How does Denny's and IHOP fluff up their omelets and their scrambled eggs? Oh, just read their menu. They tell you they put pancake batter and waffle batter in their omelets and in their scrambled eggs to fluff them up. So you're not just getting eggs. A lot of those places, when you go to buffets, it'll be 60% oil. So they look like scrambled eggs, but they're 60% oil, 20% dried egg powder, and 20% wheat flour. When you go to one of those places that has these beautiful, good-tasting scrambled eggs are all fluffed up, say, okay, do these eggs come from a carton or a plastic bag, or are these cracked eggs? If they're cracked eggs, I want to see the shells. You have to be that obsessive. Otherwise, you will kill yourself, okay?
So what about like soy flour and all that stuff?
I don't give a rat's tail about soy flour. It has nothing to do with
That's
gluten.
in all the stuff now too.
It doesn't matter.
You know?
It doesn't matter. If you're not allergic to soy, it doesn't matter. If you're allergic to soy, don't eat it. Soy won't hurt you if you're not allergic to it. Yes.
I canceled surgery yesterday.
Congratulations. Give her a hand, folks. You can't. This is like alcohol. This is like surgery anonymous. I love this.
In my legs, I was supposed to have stents, angioplasty, stents in my leg.
I can see that.
When the doctor said, he sent me to imaging and have another ultrasound. And I said, what is this for?
What do you need that for? I can see it.
He said, it's for your veins. And I said, what's that mean? He said, well, you may have to do a bypass. And I got scared and I said, well, a bypass is there's more risk than just angioplasty putting the stent in. So where do I go from now?
Okay, now.
I just talked to the doctor this afternoon.
I'm glad you canceled.
I'll let you know.
Okay, he can have a beer with his other buddy and say, how do I talk this woman into this? I need a Mercedes payment. Okay, so, yeah, and so I actually had pictures of a gal who had veins like you have, only they were like 2 inches in diameter, like a garden hose.
My arteries are very, very small.
But yeah, yours are clogged, but I'm talking about the veins, which I can see from here. Okay, yeah. Those are all those purpley things that look like road maps. Well, if you don't want people to see them, wear long pants. Okay, so in 3 months' time, we take these varicose veins that are 2 inches in diameter down to less than the size of a lead in a lead pencil. Less than a millimeter or 2 in diameter. Okay, you've had your chance now, you gotta be quiet. Okay, so, I know, but you also have varicose veins.
They're not popping out.
Okay, do you want to get better, or do you want to keep talking? Please don't battle with me. I'm giving you $1 million worth of free advice. Now, I'm going to have to start charging people that ask me too many questions. Okay. Yeah, there has to be pain for breaking the rules. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do, what do you weigh?
130.
130, okay. I want you to take 1 healthy brain and heart pack per month. Get an extra bottle of selenium, because I want you to take 6 a day. 3 at breakfast, 3 at dinner for the selenium. Half a dose of everything else twice a day. Then I want you to take what we call ultimate daily tablets. Okay, I want you to take 3 of those twice, maybe 1 bottle a month. Okay, and that's to support and promote healthy vascular health and so on. Also, including the arteries. Also, because see, if that's happening in your legs, guess what? It's happening in your neck, it's happening in your heart, it's happening in your eyes, it's happening in your brain. It's not just happening in your legs. But you notice, with all this vascular problem, what's the color of her hair? White.
Well, I'm 87 years
It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with age. I see kids who are 10 years old with hair whiter than yours. They're as white as, their hair is as white as sheets. But in 6 months' time, it goes back to their normal color. But I love my white hair. Okay. It's going to change. Okay? Because when it changes, that means the arteries are opening up. In addition to the HGH, in addition to the Ultimate Daily tablets, twice a day, 1 bottle a month. I also want you to get 2 bottles of HGH. HGH, 3 letters, Harry, George, Harry, HGH. 2 bottles a month. I want you to take 6 of those at breakfast and 6 at dinner time. It'll take a little while to do that, but they're little capsules, so it's kind of easy. And take it with food rather than water. If you take it with water, it'll be this big with water, right? It'll slosh around. But every capsule you take just with a half a teaspoon of some food and swallow the food and the capsule together, you won't get all filled up with water. Now, the purpose of this is, of course, for your lining of your arteries to make nitric oxide, which do what? Dilate your arteries. Yep. It's kind of like using things when you're having chest pain. Use nitroglycerin, actually releases nitric oxide in your arteries. This does the same thing without prescription. Okay. Now you have to stop the ongoing damage, which means you have to change everything you've been doing because of what you've been doing that got you in trouble. No fried foods. I don't care. I don't care. People say, yeah, I'm careful where the landmines. I walk between them. Bam! You're dead. Okay? Okay. No fried foods. No processed meats with nitrates, nitrites. Means no deli slices, no sandwich meats, no sausage, ham, bacon, bologna, salami, pepperoni, jerky. No oils. No olive oil, coconut oil, margarine, mayonnaise, salad dressing. They're giving me that look. Okay? Which means no oils. Because they oxidize, turn into trans fatty acids, heterocyclines, and acrylamides, which inflame your arteries and your veins and clog your arteries and veins. No oils. I just love my Italian virgin olive oil. It's going to kill you, dear. Don't do it anymore. Then absolutely drop dead, no gluten in the household. You, your spouse, dog, cat, mother-in-law, sister, renter, anybody in the household has got to be gluten-free. Otherwise, you're not gluten-free. You have to absorb these nutrients from the work, okay? Okay, got time for 2 more. Oh, you already had a question through her. So are you together?
We're together.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Kent. Okay, yes, ma'am.
My son is 25 years old and he's been diagnosed with Lyme disease.
How long ago?
Just within the last month, but he's had the symptoms of it for like 2 years. It started with hair loss and it started with losing weight and sleep problems and joint pain. And he finally went to a doctor and they did the test for Lyme disease and they said he has it. And so he had the test redone and they...
Have you ever been to the Rocky Mountains or up in the Minnesota?
No, he did work in he worked down in Brazil for a while and
Okay.
he was in Argentina.
Okay. Well, he doesn't have Lyme disease. Now, let me ask you a couple more questions here. Did he ever have asthma or bronchitis?
No.
Did he ever have bowel problems, constipation, diarrhea complaints?
If he did, he hadn't told me.
Was he a colicky baby?
Yes.
He told you. He told you when he was a baby that he was having bowel problems. Every time, did you breastfeed him?
Yes.
Okay, are you wearing makeup?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any skin problems, eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, or rosacea?
I don't think so.
Do you have acne?
No.
Okay. No respiratory problems?
I have sinusitis once in a while.
Okay, what about asthma or bronchitis?
No. I have food allergies.
Okay. Let's see here, do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Did any of them have any asthma?
No.
Did any of them have bowel problems, you know, appendix out?
I don't think so.
Oh, you know that, you know that. Did any of them have skin problems?
No.
Their sisters didn't ever complain about skin problems?
No.
Nobody had rough skin on the back of their arms?
No.
Okay. Your son has gluten intolerance. That means you have it because you gave it to him. Okay? Men get it, but they can't pass it on because they don't have pregnancy or breastfeed. I can make that happen if you want, but... Okay, what does he weigh?
Probably about 200.
Yeah. You're the pen clicker.
He's 6'5". Holding it underneath the paper. Okay, please don't do that anymore. Okay. So he needs to be on 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month. 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, and then I want him to get on the Immortalium. 2 of those twice. He has 1 bottle a month, and that's to get stem cells going, right, to rebuild stuff.
I also want him to get 2 bottles of glucogel, 2 large bottles of glucogel. That's to support and promote maintenance repair cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, bone matrix, bone itself. And let's see here. Lastly, I want him to have the de-stress capsules. 3 of those twice a day. It's 2 bottles a month. And I want you to call me every 2 weeks and tell me, what's his name?
Max.
Max, okay. I want you to tell me every 2 weeks how his energy's doing, how his pain in his knees and all that kind of stuff is doing, right? Now, the reason why I say he doesn't have Lyme's disease is because Lyme disease is curable in 2 weeks. Yes. It's curable in 2 weeks. I get people telling me, oh, I've had chronic Lyme disease. Really? My antennae go up when they say chronic Lyme disease. How long have you had it? Oh, for 25 years. I've been on antibiotics for 25 years. Well, your doctor needs to go to jail.
No, but he never did the antibiotics.
I don't
That's the
care.
problem.
He doesn't have Lyme disease. You just got, you know, people get antibodies against tuberculosis when they get exposed to it. They get tested for, they do a blood test or do a skin test to see if they have tuberculosis, going to be a food worker or something like that. And they'll have antibodies, but they'll have a negative TB test. Because they're exposed 25 years ago. He may have been exposed when he was in Brazil or something like that. But Lyme disease, I mean, you get a fever that puts you in bed and you're near death and all that kind of stuff. It's not like you have a little pain in your knees, you got some rashes and things like that. Okay? So these people that have Lyme disease for 25 years, they've been treated with antibiotics every day for 25 years. They don't have Lyme disease. They have gluten intolerance. But doctors don't think of gluten intolerance, or if they do, they don't want to be gluten intolerant because there's a code in the insurance book for Lyme disease. And all they got to do is write Lyme disease code number, and the doctor and the insurance pays them. Okay? And once you understand that, you say, oh my God. Okay? So, do this for 90 days and he'll be a new man. Now, let me give you a phone number here. And because I'm not going to be able to do any more because we got to do an hour and a half drive to get to our hotel here. We got an early morning tomorrow. We need to leave in the next 3 minutes. So there's 2 toll-free numbers I want to give you. One of them runs from noon to 1 every day, Monday through Friday. Been doing it for 23 years. The second one, which is a different number, will run from 1 to 2 every day, Monday through Friday. The first one that runs from noon to 1 is 888-379-2552. That's 888-379-2552. The second one, which runs from 1 to 2 in the afternoon, every day, Monday through Friday, is also toll-free, 877-912-7529. 877-912-7529. Now, I'm going to say one more thing here, and I'm going to turn this back over to Pete and his crew. They've done a great job. Let's give them a hand. I want you to think about this. How many of you paid the admission fee to get in here? You see, we gave you $1 million worth of free advice tonight.
That's right.
And we'll continue to give you free advice. We don't charge you anything for the information. And at the very least, you become what we call a preferred customer. It's wholesale. You never have to pay the retail prices. And if you get 3 other people going on the basic program, the Healthy Start Pack, every month, yours will be free every month. Is that cool? Now, also, there's different levels that come in as an associate or distributor, and they can tell you about this stuff. And you pay a little bit of money ranging from $25 all the way up to $500. You don't have to do any of those things right now. You can become a free preferred customer, or you can start anywhere you want. You can do the higher price ones later on, get the stock options and car bonuses. And so when you pay $500, you get more than $500 worth of product of your choice. Okay, so it's not like you're giving us $500 one time. You're getting $500 one time, but you're getting all these bonuses and all that kind of stuff. And we're getting more than $500 worth of product. So you can look around and see what you want. Now, we're looking for help. And I realize that probably 85% of the people who work with me are customers, right? Essentially, they're my patients. They really aren't interested in helping anybody else. They're really not interested in getting paid. They just want to be well and feel good and have a good life, which is okay. That makes me happy that happens. But I need help. I'm willing to pay obscene amounts of money, give away a lot of free product to make it happen. And so if you're prepared to spend a couple hours a week, get free training to be involved, help other people, and you get an income stream plus tax benefits. Remember, you don't get any tax benefits whatsoever as an employee. But When you have your own little business, starting even at the bottom level at 25 bucks one time, you get more than you get about 50 bucks worth of stuff. Show you how to run your business, all kinds of things. You will get the same tax breaks that Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and Donald Trump and all the billionaires get. Now, if you're working, in addition to doing the longevity thing, you get withholdings, don't you? The government, or your boss, holds money to give to the government at the end of the year. It's called withholding taxes. Now, if you have tax breaks, now, let's see here. How far did you come from, Andrea?
Lancaster.
Which is how far of a drive?
About 2.5 hours.
Okay, so a total of 5 hours, 2.5 hours here, 2.5 hours there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so you're looking at what, maybe 250 miles maybe each way?
Yes, sir.
At 52 cents a mile, you get to deduct that. You get to deduct your space in your home for your home office. Okay, and there's, let's say you're able to deduct 100. Because if nothing else, he gets a tax deduction, which he gets his money back from the other businesses. He doesn't care. He's got 50 businesses. He doesn't care if he loses money in 25 of them, makes money in 25 of them. But if you only have one job and they lay you off, bam, you're dead. Okay? So, God bless you. Welcome to the Longevity family. If nothing else, a believer, thank you very much. We'll see you in the back